What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to get through football seasons like the Detroit Lions, like what Michigan State's going through for years and years and years, maybe the next few Tigers seasons, who knows? Skymint is here for you. Go to skymint.com for location information and daily specials. Some really cool specials going on right now. And our Thursday night show, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Play the games with us, the games we're betting this weekend. Have some fun. Jason, how you doing, man?
Peacock.
Let's just get rid of the Thursday night game. What are we doing here?
Because you're annoyed that it's on and you can't see it?
No, I'm glad I can't see it. Have you seen the score? It's like 0-0 in the second quarter. It's complete ass.
I jumped on the live line at, like, in the second quarter. It was still like under 33 and a half. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that.
Were you about to tweet it out?
No, I just did it like 30 seconds ago.
I know the over-under was like 40, went down to 38.
Yeah.
It's just like these games are just brutal now. Now with like the Tua injury and everything, I just say like just abolish the Thursday night game and who would be pissed off?
Or pick better games.
Even then, just no, because the short weeks or, I mean, unless you're going to do it after bye weeks, but how hard would that be to figure out? But these games, this product's bad.
It's
and if
not.
Daniel Snyder, he's got stuff on Goodell. I mean, hell, the NFL could be a wrap here soon, right?
Yeah, no.
Daniel Snyder can bring down the NFL.
That's it. That's it for the NFL. I thought it was going to be concussions, but it's going to be Daniel Snyder. That's it. By next week, we'll be all done with football. So that'll be a shame. We're going to dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions here. Some fantastic stuff, and also what we're betting as well. Up first, a little sad news I wanted to share. A name that people probably recognize from our Twitter questions over time and hot takes. If you remember the name Boona Boona Boona, it was Steve Boona, Dr. Stephen Boona, passed away in August, and was just 36 years old. And so, I don't know, just somebody that I met in Columbus once when I was down covering an Ohio State game, had a really fun night having a drink with him and chatting. Had a lot of common interest. He would have appreciated the Girls Five Eva and that sort of thing, as well as some musicals, and as well as loved gambling and
you
college
would send
basketball.
me his parlays and picks like every morning. So
Yeah.
sorry to hear that. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, 9-year battle with brain cancer, and which I didn't. I knew he had some brain surgery and stuff. I didn't realize everything that was going on when I talked to him. And in lieu of flowers, donations to his memory can be sent to the American Brain Tumor Association, the American Cancer Society, and the Columbus Humane Society. So we'll do something here from Couch in the Rube, and if anybody else knew him or feels like doing so, get a hold of us, and we'll do that as well. Never a good way to transition from that, but one thing he did appreciate, Steve loved gambling. Yeah. So we'll go now to what we're betting this weekend, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. What are you betting this weekend?
You know what, Graham? I'm going a little big. I'm going a parlay, 3-leg parlay. I got Illinois versus Minnesota. I got the money line at plus 210. Then I have Kansas, plus 9 to hook. Now, I understand. Jalen Daniels might not play, but they do have senior Jason Bean, who threw 4 touchdowns against TCU in the second half. So I trust the plus 9.5 because Oklahoma's given up, right? And to finish it out, round it out, USC money line, which is plus 145 against Utah. I know they're traveling on the road, but I think USC, they can get that done in Utah. So plus 13.19. So
wow.
$25 bet will pay $329.98.
I love that. That's a can't miss parlay if there's ever been one. This week I love the lines a little too much. Like, I love that Kansas line. I love the Illinois Minnesota line, and that scares me how much I love them.
Scrap this then.
Yeah. The other line I love is, I know Indiana's not very good, and I know Maryland's much improved, and I know Maryland Maryland is improved, but minus 11.5 on the road at Indiana, that's a big number. I'm going to hold my nose and bet the Hoosiers. I don't look. It's always 11.5 for Maryland on the road. Like, this is still Maryland football. Like, they got to prove it a little longer than this, right? I'm
double-digit points, yeah, that gets you intrigued a little bit, but you hate betting on teams that are kind of half-ass. You know what I mean?
Gosh, it is a whole.
Because I know what you're saying. You're getting your money in right, I feel, but you can just see that disaster waiting to happen.
I don't want to watch that game. There are lots of good games going on. I'm all over Tennessee at minus 7.5. I got that early in the week. It's dropped to minus 7. I love the hook, but I still like it.
Everybody loves Tennessee. That's what scares me.
That's scary. All these scare me. It's too good, and I love some of these underdogs on the money line. Like, to me, hitting like Kansas and Tennessee on the money line in Illinois, like a 3-leg underdog parlay money line. 3 teams I think that have played as good as football at least, or better than the teams that are favored against them. But the other thing, so I'm playing all of those. I'll probably parlay them in all sorts of ways. And then I like a couple Premier League games this weekend. I love the way Chelsea is playing. They've screwed me, I should say, in recent years, or in recent weeks and months and years. But
that's a lot of screwing.
Yeah, Chelsea.
Jesus, long time screwing you there.
But like Chelsea, and also like Man City. So you get Man City at Liverpool minus 129, Chelsea also minus 129 money line at Aston Villa, who's ass. Give me those two. I'll probably parlay them as well. That is what we're betting, presented by the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download it today. Play those games with us. Have some fun this weekend. You ready to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions?
Absolutely, my friend. Eric Schultz up first, of course. Graham said on Sunday that with MSU and Wisconsin, the better quarterback and coaching staff will win. I agree. So if that's true and Mel Tucker is worse than an inexperienced interim coach and Peyton Thorne is worse than Graham effing Mertz, in what universe is that acceptable?
Yeah, it's not acceptable if those two things are true. The thing that I probably didn't quite get into enough, that I've watched a little more Wisconsin, and the one thing I'm a little concerned about for MSU, that the one advantage Wisconsin has is in the trenches. And if that continues to be a huge problem, if MSU's offensive line just doesn't do anything adequately, that can be a tough workaround. And so if Mertz has all sorts of time and Thorne is just under a pile of defenders, that's not quite an even matchup. Michigan State has to get to Graham Mertz. Like, this is a really big Scotty Hazelton week for me in this. Like, if you go watch Graham Mertz play, every quarterback is better when they have time. But there are certain quarterbacks that are really affected by pressure and really turn the ass when you get after them. And he's one of them.
And they usually play for Wisconsin and Iowa.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
And so, like, to me, you have to at all costs. If the cost is every once in a while, sometimes you don't get home and he burns you, you deal with it. Yeah. You're going to get burned over the course of a drive anyway, the way you're playing right now. To me, you have to get pressure on him, and that's the bigger thing this week. But and that falls on Tucker and that falls on Hazelton. And as long as Thorne has a little bit of time and the offensive line does something adequately, I think it's very fair to judge him against.
I mean, does Mertz throw an accurate deep ball? I haven't watched Wisconsin much this year, right? I mean, because that's basically what you were saying, blitz and then just whatever, pray and hope he overthrows.
He's got good weapons on the outside, better than I realized, and he looked good last week. He's not somebody I've never been impressed with him. And I don't think he's that poised a player. And so I really think you've got to make him uncomfortable. If they don't make him uncomfortable, that's a real issue.
Maybe Paul Chryst was holding him back. It's the new Graham Mertz this week. Next one from Eric. Graham, I do see your point that it might not do much to fire someone like Hazelton midseason, but if you're Tucker and Graham Mertz looks like an All-American out there on Saturday, at what point do you owe it to your players to rid them of an incompetent coach?
Yeah, I mean, if you truly think your coach is incompetent, then you do it immediately. I don't see why you like, to me, you have to trust that Mel Tucker thinks this guy isn't incompetent, right? Because if you think your coach is the problem, then you do what other programs have done. I am not against getting rid of a coach midseason if you think truly that's the issue. I just think often coaches get scapegoated when they're feeling a little bit of pressure, so they get rid of a coordinator and it sort of gives them a buffer. I hate that move. Like, that's not great leadership.
But there's that move, and there's Graham Mertz coming in and
no
into
doubt.
your house and throwing for 400.
You got to find a way to get home. You got to find a way to get home this week. You got to find a way to be. You got to find a way to do something well. And because what this defense needs in certain ways is they need something that gives them success. Like, if they're opportunistic with turnovers, if they become a defense that sort of has a knack on third downs, even if they're not that good, if they wind up blitzing sometimes and getting to the quarterback, like, they don't do anything well right now. They need something that they sort of, and last week, and Wisconsin should be different. Last week, they get off the field on third down against Ohio State, and Ohio State's like, well, screw it, we'll just go down fourth down. And Wisconsin won't do that. And they've been better, in goal line stands, they've been better on third downs a little bit lately. So I am curious to see against Wisconsin this week if there's a continued uptick and improvement there.
Next one from Eric Schultz. Graham has A.J. Hoggard on his all Big Ten first team. While I'm not saying he's wrong, I am saying that the only way that's true is if A.J.'s got a significantly improved jumper and can now somewhat hit from outside. You watch practice. Are you telling us A.J. can shoot?
Haven't seen a lot of practice, seen a little bit. He's improved. There's no question about it. I don't know to what degree. The thing about doing and he's talking about the Athletic and Columbus Dispatch ballot media poll that I did. It's a really hard. That thing wanted what, first and second team, and
just name all the players. Fifth team.
There are a lot of guys you just don't know. Like, there are guys you like in Iowa, and you're like, wait a second, I can't put 3 Iowa guys on the or 2 Iowa guys on the first team.
Have you gone back and looked at your preseason kind of stuff ever?
I've known what it is because sometimes I want to see it do well. Like, one year when I was way out up front on Illinois, I wanted them all year. But yeah, it's a Big Ten where there's just a lot of guys who aren't that sure things. There's not a lot of sure stars. There's a lot of guys that could be anywhere from like fourth team to first team, and somebody's got to prove it. And so I look at Michigan State's team. Michigan State's got a bunch of guys who could be third teamers, fourth teamers, zero teamers, first, a couple guys first teamers. And that's just my guess that I'm going to take what he was at the end of last season.
So what you're saying is it's basically meaningless.
Oh, it's totally meaningless.
Voting, yeah.
Totally meaningless. But, yeah. And
why waste your time with it?
Because Brendan and Adam Jardy asked me to do it. So
yeah, I understand that, but you know what I mean, like
they're hoops people. I'm a hoops guy too, but I'm in the middle of football and I've only paid so much attention, and so it's not. There's not a whole lot of point to it. I do think this about A.J. Hoggard, though. I will say, last year at the end of last season, what impressed me about him more than anything is when he couldn't shoot. Usually, guys who can't shoot and they sag off you can keep them from causing problems in the lane. He could still cause a problem in the lane, and that was a real gift. Well, he's going to have to be a better shooter. He's going to have to be more consistent, but that was my guess.
Dominic next. I was one of the people who reached out about your stylist, Graham. You said her name was Melissa, so I booked an appointment with Melissa. On Sunday, you then said Michelle is great. Is it Melissa or Michelle? Fuck did you get me into, couch?
It's Melissa. I think I was talking about maybe Mebe, whose name is Michelle, when I said, or maybe I just misspoke. I don't know. It's definitely Melissa. I apologize. It's 100% Melissa. Melissa. She's great. She's fantastic. She makes my ugly ass look decent for like an hour and a half after every haircut, and then my face just goes back to looking like it does. So,
next one from Dominic. Can't you think of another fan base that's as lucky as we are? Sure, our entire football season has been a Lat's toilet, but just think. This time next month, we'll be reminded how Tom erroneously entrusted the 5 spot to Matty Sissoko. No other program is as lucky as we are.
You're pretty damn lucky, Dominic. I'll be honest. If you just go team by team, program by program, and here's the thing you have to remember: it's not just who's good.
Cockburn.
Like if you go to Notre Dame right now, you're not allowed to care about basketball. Not allowed to. That's the wrong word. But you wouldn't care about basketball as much, so you'd be even more miserable about football. You can't think of it in the same terms, like, hey, wait a sec, that's a good basketball team. I think they're going to be really good this year. Nobody cares. UCLA may have a good basketball team this year. They got 7 fans. Half the MAC's got more people at their games than UCLA. So they don't care. It just doesn't do them any good. They don't have any football fans either. I don't know. Why is UCLA joining the Big Ten instead of the MAC? They don't have any fans. I don't really get that.
Dominic next. Will Couch bring back the colleague critiques? Few things in life bring me greater joy than Couch taking unprompted late-night swings at his 69 folk after a couple Irish whiskeys.
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
Want to go after Los after that bullshit he tried putting out this morning?
See, Los is part of the problem, actually. So here's the problem is
I didn't even have to click it.
No, you know it.
Yep.
No, that's the thing is, when they're just Michigan State, when they're down, there aren't enough national voices, and I just wind up ripping on the guys in state. It's just like,
what does that tell you?
Oh, and look, and sometimes you're taking a counterpoint. You're not really ripping them. You're taking a counter perspective, but it can't just be me ripping on Los. It can't be the weekly segment. It would be an entertaining segment. I'll tell you what I think we should do, though. What I think we should add to maybe the Sunday night program or maybe the Tuesday program is doing the Couch counterpoint or ripping Los, whatever it might be, on this show. So we just take a column that was written this week in state and we get into why it's wrong. I think that'd be fun.
Man, how many segments on a Los thing, though? Like, I feel like if we start giving him, people would go read it, right, or something. I just don't want people to click on that.
No, we won't. We will only rarely do him. We'll just move it around.
How can we not? We could do him every week.
Well,
I guess it's like
we could. That we just won't. We'll have the discipline not to.
Is Hondo still writing stuff?
You don't
do like a Raiders thing, maybe.
Yeah, you can't do. It's Hondo's like. No, you can't do the Hondo ones. You just can't. It's not.
It would be fun though. I don't know. Dominic, if you hooked up with a friend's mom in 2003 and kept it under wraps, do you take it to the grave at this point?
Yes, 100%.
Do you hate the friend?
Doesn't matter.
Nah, if I hated the friend, I'd be like, hey, by the way, 2003.
Well, it's not really a friend then, is
your
it?
Mom. That was a great night. Remember that party where you passed out? Yeah, your mom didn't. Am I right? No. If you're still friends, yeah, you got to take it.
If you have any respect for that person, you do it. You keep it. You take it to your grave.
Right. Maybe. Which game left on MSU's schedule will be the most competitive or enjoyable to go to?
So those are two maybe different questions because you get into November and the weather's cold as hell and the winds.
Nobody's going out.
The wind's blowing through your soul and it's Rutgers. I would say Indiana is probably the most evenly matched, competitive both ways team.
You pitched
left.
me on getting off my couch, leaving the house to get off my lovely couch with my lovely wife, making snacks and a bathroom right there. You pitched me on getting me to go to that game.
Yeah, and that's like hunting season. It's going to be empty there.
I don't even hunt. I'll come up with it if I have to.
There's only 3 left. It's either Wisconsin this week.
Yeah.
Or it's, unless you go on the road, or it's Rutgers or Indiana. It's Wisconsin, Rutgers, or Indiana. And there was Ohio State last week. It's all teams wearing red. That's what, if you had, so this,
what are we supposed to do with that?
Well, I was just thinking what'll be sort of interesting, and what I didn't think of this last week, but if you took like an aerial photo of the stands for each game, you would get a good feeling of the visiting travel, That'd be interesting. But I would say this week, to be honest with you, Michelle, like this week is, first of all, I think this week still has some meaning because I think this is a swing game in a lot of ways. I think if they win,
swing game.
No, what I mean is not for their earliest goals for this season, but I think if they win this game, they've got a chance to be playing for something for a bowl game throughout the rest of the season. Like this to me, there's no spin. This to me is the difference between playing for a bowl game the rest of the season, and maybe that's just being at 5 wins when you're going into Penn State and there's not much chance of it, but or going 2-10 and 3-9. Like if they win this, you're feeling better about yourself. You got a bye week. Maybe things aren't as bad as they feel. You get a win, which is winning just after losing 4 straight. How good that'll feel to these guys. You get a little healthier going into Michigan. The world just seems a little brighter. You lose this one, it's as miserable as it gets. And so I think this one, there's meaning to it. It's homecoming. There's a decent crowd. The weather's going to be football weather. It's this week. Wisconsin.
Maybe, and DC Spartan with the same question. How much will the aircraft carrier tickets run? How can aircraft carrier tickets be bought?
So this is a good question. I need to look into this because, I don't know if they can. I've heard some people are going, but I don't know the steps you have to go through. So let me look into this.
A donor.
Both of you DM me or anybody else wants to. I'll look into this, or maybe I'll just do a short thing on it because, I had to turn in passport, license, social security number, all sorts of because it's a military based thing.
Why you're coaching a 6-year-old soccer team without a kid on it?
They had a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
These kids are not yours. What
International waters. You got to be careful.
Why do you take a walk every day around a preschool? I don't really understand that. I mean, it's in your neighborhood, but so yeah. No, I seriously reach out and I'll reach out to people and see if I can figure out how you can get. They've got to have more than just the military there. Sometimes it is just that, but I don't think that's the case here. I think there are some tickets available.
Alex James next. Do you think MSU fans would rather see Mel Tucker add several transfers and positions of need this offseason and build some excitement for 2023, or stay patient and hope his recruits can become gamers within 2 to 3 years? Doesn't seem like the program can do both.
You got to try to do both because, you don't want 2023 to be just awful. And here's what's going to get really interesting. You get past the Michigan game, you get down to 4 games left, and no longer you're able to play true freshmen and not burn their redshirt year. So we talk about true freshman offensive linemen. That's a position to play early, and it seems like none of those guys are ready yet. Well, if you're a redshirt freshman offensive lineman, that makes sense. But maybe there's some true freshmen who actually are closer to ready than we're aware of. But you don't want to burn that redshirt year, especially if you're trying to build an offensive line that 5 years from now is really good and competing with Ohio State. You don't want to be like, well, we would have had these 2 guys, but we burned their red shirts during that 3-9 season, and now we don't have fifth-year seniors up front. So it'll be interesting to see who plays then. And what I mean by that, why that's important, is that'll start to explain more where there's need. And, I think there's need a lot of places. Look, you got to keep trying to strike gold with transfers. I mean, they're playing a lot of them. They're better than a lot of the other guys in the program. And I think ideally you've got a recruiting class that's, 80% freshmen, 20% transfers.
Alex James next. Do you think Mel Tucker will look to add a quarterback via the transfer portal this offseason?
I can't imagine he would, because balancing and figuring out unless somebody leaves or a couple people leave unexpectedly, gone are the days of the 4-person quarterback room. The transfer portal makes that almost impossible. You want 3 guys. You want a starter, a guy who's just under them who's got some experience, and then your young recruit you're bullish on, and you try to make that work and convince all those guys to stay. And I just don't see a need for it. First of all, I think Peyton Thorne's still potentially a pretty decent quarterback. We haven't seen a capable line in front of him. Maybe he's not, but I don't think he's gotten a fair look. Noah Kim certainly hasn't gotten a fair look. And then you get a guy like Katin Houser they're really high on who's young. There's plenty of hope for the QBs they have, and I don't know who you'd get that would want to join that and necessarily be sure they were going to beat them out.
Alex James with this one. If you could pick one Spartan legend to add to this current football team, who would it be? Ooh, just one? Could Kari Willis bring this defense together somehow? Because I've been thinking about him. If you had a guy like him on this defense, could he maybe salvage?
He was helpful. I mean,
I just don't know.
There's so many holes. That's a really great question. What guy?
You can't just add one, though.
Right. You can say, well, Charles Rogers, but, they can't. I mean,
they don't have time to throw him the ball, I guess.
Right. I mean, what good is that? Jack Conklin would be a good left tackle, might be the guy.
But he's just one dude. What about the other side?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The guy that, I would look at a guy like Denikos Allen, who would just cause havoc in the backfield. A guy who can do multiple things and get in the backfield and cause problems. Because just the corners themselves, you throw Darquez Denard back there, Trey Waynes, those guys still can't defend for more than 3.5 seconds. That's just not what you do in football. People would think those guys were ass if they played on this defense. You have to get to the quarterback. That's part of the problem with what's happening right now. So I do like your Kari Willis pick. I think that's a good potential play. But you go legends, you can go way back to some of the great linebackers. I don't know if the linebackers what it would be. That's a really good question. There are a number of ways you could go, and maybe you know what it might be if you don't have a line. TJ Duckett, just a guy who can carry dudes. Like TJ, here you go, carry. See if you can get 3 yards for us.
Alex James with this one. Would you rather A, be Johnny Spirit's personal towel boy for a full Saturday, or B, watch the Red Box Bowl every night for a month?
What's your answer here?
I would listen to Jack Ebling do a recreation of the Red Box Bowl live on his show, like he did with the old basketball games, before I would be Johnny Spirit's personal towel boy.
Yeah.
Right?
No doubt. You give me
for a full Saturday?
Yeah, I could throw on a podcast. I could do whatever. You give me a box of Groovy Donuts, I can sit there and deal with the Red Box Bowl. And by the way, Groovy Donuts right now, it is Halloween spooky season. Incredible lineup this weekend, next weekend, and Halloween weekend. Go to groovydonuts.com to check it out and place your orders. Make donuts part of your Halloween season. They've also got spooky cereal donuts this week. And
donuts and cereal, my favorite.
I think they're fantastic. God. Yeah. You know me,
delicious.
I would.
I eat them with my pants off.
Teach their own, but I'm not. There is video evidence.
This is your voice. Jonathan B. next. Will Mel do everything he can to win the Wisconsin game? For example, bring back Jacob Slade and Xavier Henderson before they are 100%. Open up the playbook, etc., or will he treat the season as already a lost cause and save all that stuff to try to take down Michigan after the bye week?
Well, you don't bring back guys before they're 100% or good to go because that's just
before the Tua thing you could.
Yeah, you don't do it at the college level, especially player safety and all that. You want to lose your job real quick with cause and not get the rest of your $95 million contract. Bring a guy back who's not ready, who's not healthy, and play him. You just don't do that for their own safety, for their own futures. Jacob Slade's a guy who's got a chance to play in the NFL, I think, and you want to let him look. They make a difference, and if they're healthy enough to play this week, you play them because they're good to go, and they would have another week to recover after it before the Michigan game. But if they need the extra time, they both make a big difference against Michigan, and you play them as soon as they're ready. And I don't think they'll hold on to those guys. Those guys have NFL aspirations. They want to be out there. As soon as they're ready to go, they'll play. And you're desperate to win. This is a huge game. You're not saving anything for Michigan. You're not hoping to. You're not saying, 3-4 with a win over Wisconsin going into the bye, getting ready for Michigan will feel so much different than 2-5 with 5 straight losses. Everything they have, they're putting into this game.
Caw meow next. Cue the spin zone, Graham. Explain why it's okay to extend and pay a coach mid-season because of a one-off year, but not fire a coach mid-season in his second year of running the worst defense in the country. Shouldn't this work both ways?
Caution. You are about to enter the spin zone with noted newspaper columnist and radio host Graham Couch.
This is our Cosmic Fries question of the day, presented by Hopcat, the best damn beer bar, world famous Cosmic Fries, once known as Crack Fries, for good reason. Mouth-watering, award-winning burgers, including the Peyton Thorne burger, which tastes good no matter how he's playing. 2 smashed patties with American cheese, bacon, a sunny side egg up, served on a pretzel bun with Cosmic Fries. And as I mention all the time, one of the best things they do is the carefully curated craft beer featuring local partners, so it feels like a local pub wherever you are at Hopcat, be it East Lansing, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, Indianapolis, you name it. Go to hopcat.com to check out locations nearest you. To the question from Caw Meow. So this is a really good point. We do bring up the idea that it is, you shouldn't just fire coaches on a whim mid-season. Maybe you shouldn't fire them at all. And yet, in big boy football, as you like to point out, you do pay guys mid-season because you're worried you're going to lose them. Some of that is obviously leverage. It's a different situation. And some of that is you are always trying to – this would be the argument to spin it. Or this isn't spin, but this would be the argument for not firing somebody but extending somebody often. You're trying to do what's best for your program at all times. And at the point last year they were worried about, and I think legitimately so, losing Mel Tucker to LSU or losing him somewhere. And I don't know if that job would have been there. I don't know if the whole thing was just created to create buzz about him. But there was buzz about Mel Tucker, and there was worry about losing him. And so at that moment, you're extending him. Now you're talking about what do you think's best for your program? Is getting rid of Mel Tucker best for your program? I don't think anybody thinks that right now. Is getting rid of Scotty Hazelton? Well, maybe, but that's Mel Tucker's call. Because, see, before it was you're extending Mel Tucker, and that's an athletic department call. That's a donor call. But Mel Tucker controls his staff, and so that's where it's just different. But you're right. It is big boy football, and if something is amiss in the middle of a season and the coordinator is part of the problem, there is no reason that person can't be let go.
Kurt Wisniewski next. Why in God's green earth would someone recommend Izzo as the new MSU Prez?
So today was eventful, Sam
Who
Stanley.
said that?
Well, Sam,
Don't coach my team.
Is that Izzo?
Brian Masalam, the former, he on Twitter said the one guy who could unify MSU.
Can Izzo do both though?
So there are two problems with what Brian Masalam said, and I gave Brian Masalam, not only did I quote tweet it, but I texted him right away and gave him shit for it because I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, what is this? Because first of all, we've seen Tom Izzo as president of the university. It didn't go all that well. Like, Tom Izzo has many talents, many strengths, but answering tough questions about subjects he's not entirely comfortable on is not one of them. And that would be part of that job. I'm not saying he wouldn't do certain things well within it. The other problem is if you want to unify a student body, Michigan State, part of their identity, part of their happiness, part of who they are is winning basketball. If you take away their winning basketball coach and they start losing or losing recruits, you are not unifying campus because half of the MSU fans out there do not give two shits who the president of the university is. But they care about the basketball program. Like, I would say Jason is probably one of them. You don't care who the president of Michigan State is, do you?
No, I can't say that I do.
Right. You're not
unless
alone.
you tell me that it's like that big of a deal or something. I don't know. But, I mean, if Izzo could do it and coach the basketball team, sure. But if he has to give up coaching, that's crazy. There's no chance.
Yeah, he's not the right
I think
guy
Izzo
for
could
that.
do it, though. Right?
In a different time, he probably could have.
Angler did it.
Well,
Jeez,
not
what are we
well.
talking- I understand.
This is not about who's the worst person you can bring. This is not like
that's a July topic.
the idea is not, hey, let's see if we can fuck this up again.
Well, I'm just saying you can't do any worse.
Than Engler?
Yeah.
I bet you could.
Set the place on fire maybe during a meeting. I don't know. Kurt Wisniewski, what will you guys be doing during the MSU football bye week? Apple Orchard. I don't know. I'll be watching football, losing parlays. I don't know.
It's not a great week. My wife's birthday is right around then, so making that a priority will be the week, and I'll be trying to watch some Premier League soccer and football and all that jazz. Try not to get too fat.
Do you guys get each other presents, or because I know you don't do it for Xmas?
Yeah,
do you guys do the birthday thing, or are you just going full Jehovah's Witness?
Sometimes, no, we do birthday gifts sometimes, but
sometimes.
But sometimes we do I think this year we're doing a joint thing where.
You're getting her a SkyMint?
Well, I always get her. No, I'm just kidding. I'll get myself SkyMint for her birthday. But no, I think we're getting ourselves a brand new bed or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why you broke it?
Something like that.
Okay. Kurt Wisniewski, if either of you could have a menu item at Hopcat, what would it be?
Meatballs.
Rube fries.
Oh, I like it. No, my love for meatballs knows no bounds, and I love pizza too. So. But
just tell us what you don't like to eat. Save us time. Am I right?
Yeah.
Gavin Haas, what makes the Wisconsin game a make or break game? We know MSU isn't a good team this season, and expectations shouldn't be high. So I don't get what you, Graham, mean when calling this a make or break game.
Well, yeah, it is and it isn't.
Swing game.
Yeah, it is for this season. I don't think it is necessarily for the program, right? Because we talk about those two tracks. The one thing that we're waiting to see, and there's already a little bit of evidence of it, is if this season goes really, really south, what does that mean for the recruiting momentum that they had built up? And do they hang on to those kids? And is it harder to get late commits in December and what's not? So in that case, I think having this season not feel like it's going entirely south is kind of important, and I think this is a big game for that. And so the problem with a lot of these games, and this game's on Fox, so a lot of people see it. Like the problem with last week's game, well, they actually have played worse than they did against Ohio State. But Ohio State was like the second most watched college football game last year in the country. It was on ABC. It was Ohio State. So a lot of people's first real times they've watched MSU was last week. And so there'll be a little of that this week too. It's a chance to, I think, change some impressions.
Gavin with this one. Is Tennessee a legit playoff contender? I can't think of a game in recent memory where almost every analyst in sight agreed that the team playing Alabama could truly compete and possibly win against them.
I hate betting against Alabama. I try not to do it.
But Tennessee at home.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, obviously, if they win that game, they could be a contender, but November 5th at Georgia.
Tennessee plus 7.5 on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app was just too good. And look,
but is Bryce Young going to play?
That's what we don't know. But even so, like Alabama doesn't have the guys on the outside that just crush you now or run away from you quite the same way. I think it's just going to be a close game. I think Tennessee has value on the money line, but I think it's going to be a close enough game that I like 7.5. When you say are they a legit playoff contender, obviously they beat Alabama. You have to think so. Their offense is incredible. Their defense is, sorry, burped. Just okay. I mean, Zion was a big deal because he was a huge guy, and I just broke my chair.
Gavin with this one. I know this is ridiculously early, and there's still many unknowns about next season, but what's a realistic expectation for the 23 MSU football team? Should we be expecting a 6-6 or 7-5 bowl season, or should we be expecting something like another New Year's Six bowl?
I think you should be expecting 6-6 or 7-5.
Jesus.
And hoping for it.
What year can we start rooting, Graham?
Well, you can root all the time.
2025?
I think when you start having serious expectations should be 2024. When you start having Ohio State expectations should be 2025. That's
all right.
Because that's when it's fair. Like,
so I'm skipping next season.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely. I think skipping next season is wise. If you were going to skip one, if you were going to do like a year in a camp in Bolivia or something, like next year is the year to do it. In 2 years they ought to be better, just based on win. Because at a certain point, not only is it fair with any coach to expect them to compete to a certain level, but when a coach signs the contract that Mel Tucker did, when his staff is paid what it is, there's a certain reasonable expectation of competing at the very highest level at a certain point. And that point to me is 2025, and I think 2024, there should be evidence that they're headed that way. I think next year is going to be rough.
Larry Miller next. Earlier this year, before the current drama involving the board and Stanley, Graham vaguely mentioned on the show that some people at MSU sense Stanley wouldn't have a long tenure. Now that he's announced his resignation, can you elaborate? And from DC Spartan. And also any inside info on why Stanley only now decides to walk away.
So a couple points here. One, I had just heard from different people that there was some buyer's remorse going back a ways on Stanley. And there were things that I don't think he was great at as a president, my sense was. I mean, he was an academic, a true academic, and I think sometimes at a Big Ten university, when you get a lot of unwieldy parts and a lot of things going on, you need almost like a really strong business leader, and your provost should be your academic in some ways. And so I don't think it was a great mix in certain ways, but a lot of people really liked him too. And so there are a lot of people who are really upset today. But that was basically what it was. And people, there was a sense for a while that, and the other thing was, I don't believe, so the pandemic hits at a certain point, and so I don't believe his wife moved here for a while. I don't know if she ever did. And I think there was a sense that he knew that he would eventually be back there. And I don't want to say that for sure. I don't know if she moved. That was at one certain point a little while ago. So
you want me to cut that in post, or
yeah, if you could fix that in post, it would be
all right.
it would be helpful. The part about any inside info why I walked away now. Yeah, I mean, he tore down. He left in flames, right? He left the whole thing with his statement was pretty interesting, I thought.
Did he drop the mic at the end?
No, and I think there's more stuff that's going to come out. Some of which won't look great for him necessarily. Is things are revealed through different investigations. But I ultimately I think he was a decent president in a really tough spot, and he just was tired of a board that, frankly, this going way back, and they probably just need a clean start at MSU. And I don't know how you get that because you got an elected board. You know, I would like to see, maybe I'll do a column on this at some point.
Allegations, but he's a good guy.
Well, no. I mean,
you're going to find out some really deep stuff.
No, but there are several different internal investigations going on, or with outside law firms. There are things happening right now that are, that aren't great. But I would, one of the things I would love to see is that voting for the board of trustees was done only by students, staff, faculty, and alums. Like, why do I vote for the board of trustees at Michigan State? I know it's my tax dollars, but I vote for the Wayne State board of trustees, and I write in my old editor from Wayne State every year because I don't know who the hell any of these people are, and some people are just randomly doing it, and it just...
I would say alums. I would trust alums.
Yeah, you want people who are invested in the school.
Yep.
Like, that's who should be helping determine who's on these boards, and the only way the board can be booted or removed is if the governor wants to do that. And if it didn't happen a couple years ago, I doubt it happens now.
Come on, Big Gretch. Some dude next. I follow recruiting just enough to be able to ask stupid questions such as this. The class is about half full. Seems like most of the offers out there are for 4- and 5-star kids, which are harder to get. December and February are kind of coming fast with a bad season on our hands. Does Tuck just swoop in on a bunch of 3 stars whenever he wants in order to fill this out? And when would that happen? Or does he offer me, you, and the Rube? The Rube jersey would get huge for name, image, and likeness.
I would buy a Rube jersey for sure.
69, am I right?
It's a good question. I don't know what he'll do because there's obviously a lot of spots left in this class, and some of it will be used with transfers, but not all of it. And I'm fascinated. I usually don't care a whole lot about recruiting, but with Mel Tucker, so much of what the expectation, so much of where he's supposed to take this program is reliant on elevating recruiting to a level we haven't seen. That stuff is really interesting to me. And
got to start recruiting Ohio, though. I follow Ohio. That's it.
Just Ohio.
Yep.
You're just following Ohio.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm on that beat. Andrew Gauthier, did you see anything versus Ohio State that makes you think the Spartans can beat the Badgers? And don't you say the pick 6?
Not a lot. I thought Jaden Reed being closer to himself was important. The big thing I've seen enough of the Badgers to know that they aren't Ohio State. That's the best news for Michigan State.
This guy's good.
Yeah.
It's a fact. Next one from the GOAT. When do we officially shift to hoops now that the Spartans are doomed to a best-case scenario of a crappy bowl game and the Lions have returned to the mean?
The average. Yeah, what they usually are, so to speak.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Learned something new today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you switch whenever you want. It feels different than, like, usually there's a real pacing to it. And it happens in a little bit in late October because there's some excitement about the preseason game and the early games. But really, you start to see it around Thanksgiving in terms of mindset. And in December, this year it started earlier just because of where the football program is. I mean, I can tell, I can feel it, and there's just more interest in hoops because what does hoops have? Hoops has hope right now, and that's sort of been lost with football entirely.
Next one from Andrew. How concerned did you get when Jonathan Vilma said Hutchinson needs to learn some pass rush moves during the broadcast this week? Dude is getting physically dominated every week aside from the Commanders game. Not a bust yet, but not a number 2 overall pick.
Did you hear that? Like, I was not listening to the sound of the game. So
No, I didn't catch that.
I
mean, Vilma would know.
Sure.
Good player, I guess. It's too quick to rush to judgment, and if you rush and say something about Hutchinson, you're anti-Michigan. So I mean, we said it before the season, Graham, that he just he didn't look like a guy that's yoked, a number 2 overall pick.
He doesn't look the part,
like a guy,
right.
But I'm saying, like, you look at a guy like Myles Garrett and the Bosa brothers, and then you see Hutchinson, and you're like, all right, I'll wait.
Yeah, but
I guess.
what's his name, Watt from Pittsburgh? He didn't look the part either.
TJ Watt? TJ Watt's still a big boy, though. I mean, he'll be fine. I get it, but I'm willing to wait. But I can understand where some fans are watching it going, So
Yeah, yeah, no, I get
this
I
whole
get
season blows, so it doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to put it on Hutchinson by any means.
You would like to see more, like, you'd like to see a game soon where you're like, that guy really makes a difference.
But I'm not throwing bust out there.
Not yet.
No way.
No.
Last one from the GOAT. What are you going to be doing with your Sundays now that the Lions are back to being unwatchable?
For you, it's red zone, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my football Sundays. I never let the Lions ruin my Sundays. It's like a holiday for me. I love it. So screw them. I just won't watch them. They won't be on the main TV. I'll put them on in the corner and have red zone on.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a Premier League game at 11:30 that goes to 1:30, so that takes your first half hour. I got a hoops game that I can join that plays at 4, so really I just got to kill like 2.5 hours. I can do that,
Got to fill up on some carbs. All that working out.
Pasta Primavera.
Meatballs. To Uper next. Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Is Scotty Hazelton insane?
I don't think he's been doing the same exact thing over and over. I mean, that's the thing. It feels like it because the results are the same.
Ass.
But you do see some differences, the things he's actually doing. And this is where I being in the press box actually helps. Or sometimes watching the game back and just watching that, not watching the ball, because you do see more of what's unfolding back there, and it's not always 100% clear. But they're doing some different stuff. They're trying some things. They just, they're not doing things that are working, and it doesn't seem like. I think guys being unsure of themselves in that defense is a big problem too, and maybe they need to simplify some things, but. They are trying different things for sure.
To Uper with this one. I was expecting some discussion about Jalen Berger during Tuesday's Hopcat interview of the week. Is he looking forward to facing his old team out to prove something? Or maybe Wisconsin isn't worried at all because they know he wasn't good enough to stay. Has Berger said anything?
Yeah, I dropped the ball on that. The Berger was mentioned a little bit by Jeff Petrakis, but I think he was mentioned at one point. But we got into the conversation, and I forgot to ask about him. I thought it was a good conversation otherwise, but yeah, I totally should have asked. And Berger was not made available to media this week, and so just hadn't said anything that I know. He wasn't part of the group that was interviewed.
Professor D'Antonio had a .691 win percentage at Michigan State. What are the chances Tucker does better than that during his tenure?
Well, he's like 15-13 now or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, he's got to, though. If I would, the chances, I'd say I'd go under. Like, if you had to do an over-under betting money on that, Jason, even money,
yeah,
would you go over or
so
under?
You're
that?
saying Tucker needs a run of 36-5, something around there. I mean,
basically, you got to win 7 out of 10 to beat that on average.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 12, a little more better than 8 out of 12, but 8 wins most year, 9 wins. I don't know. It's the to me the thing is if he gets like a baseline of talent where he's always at least winning 8-9 games, which given his contract should be the minimum expectation.
And is he getting to the college football playoff?
Right, and then once in a while or every few years has that big year, then he might have a chance to get over that. The problem is, 2-5, he only played 7 games in that first season. But if you wind up like 2-10 this year, that's a tough win percentage deal to overcome. I don't know. I would bet under, but
so let Hazelton coach the rest of the season. Let him take the losses. Is that what we're saying?
That's not
Let
at all.
Tucker sit out.
It's not all. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's just he would still get like if you don't coach it, if you're the head coach, you still get credit.
No.
So like Izzo missed 1 game at one point. It's still part of his wins.
All right, Professor. What are the realistic goals for the MSU football team for the rest of the year?
I think at this point, I mean, you're just trying to win a game.
Don't get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Win a game or two.
And then if you win this week, because really the whole thing, if you lose this week, then it's just don't get embarrassed, try to win a game, try to not feel awful about yourself. If you win this week, then you can go, okay, there's a path to the postseason. They're going to have to beat 3 other teams, and Indiana and Rutgers are probably going to have to beat 2 of them. The question is, can they beat win at Illinois? Can they win at Michigan? Can they win at Penn State? Odds are against them, but at least if they win this game, there is a chance that they will at least be going into their final game with the postseason on the line, and that's something.
Gluten Weasel. Graham, you've already written your Dream 3-9 season columns in 2016. Do you find yourself rooting for the story of Elijah Collins' comeback, willing this team to 6 wins and a .com bowl? Maybe a profile on Noah Kim and his second half of the season takeover.
I do like good storylines. I'm not rooting for misery with this group. I do like programs having to strive and struggle, and I do enjoy. I must say, after last year's and just sort of how easy everything seemed to come, like in the overall story arc of Mel Tucker, just from a story perspective, I enjoy there being hiccups and stuff that has to be worked through, and it shouldn't come so easy. But I'm not rooting for guys to suffer, and you can tell there's a lot of misery, and I don't want to see fans stink. I don't want to see you guys lose interest, because that's not good for this show. That's not good for my job at the LSJ. But I wouldn't mind Elijah Collins, 1,000-yard, last 6 games, takes his team to the, Duke's Mayo Cheese Bowl or whatever.
Gluten Weasel. Who's the ideal president for MSU? If no specific name comes to mind, what's the criteria, and why is it Magic Johnson?
I feel like Magic would just leave after 4 or 5 weeks and decide he didn't want to do it anymore.
He would be absolutely bored to tears, yeah.
He wouldn't. I don't think that would be good. I don't know the person, but I think I know the type. Like you got to be a presence. You've got to be somebody who understands that a Big Ten university is big business. You've got to have an understanding of how all that can work, or have people around you who really do. Listen a lot, be empathetic, be savvy, and I think you've also got to have just a little bit of, I'm not saying that you want the Board of Trustees to fear you, because ultimately they're your boss, but they've got to almost respect you and awe of you. You've got to have them on your finger. It's a great question. It's a really tough needle to thread.
Does that person exist? Is that The Rock that you're talking about?
It's The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock.
The Rock's going to come in and be the president at Michigan State. Yeah, it's a
bunch
tough
of jabronis in this room. All right,
it's a tough gig,
Slam them through
and
the
I'm
table.
not sure this group of trustees is the group to figure it out.
Nick Palmer, biggest takeaways from your Rick Comley interview that you didn't mention in your column? I added that last part.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me that I didn't first of all, I didn't know that he wasn't originally going to come to Michigan State as the coach. That he was just going to come as an administrator and work under Ron Mason. I didn't realize. And just it was interesting to get him to be as frank as he was about how much he didn't like and resented the notion that the end of his era was partly still responsible for MSU hockey's state, which he's right about at this point. It's just been too long. The program had dipped when he left, but it's been a decade at this point. Like, that's not on him.
You really can't blame the guy after a decade.
No, and he won a national championship 4 years before he left. So
Right.
let's get serious here.
I think you wipe all that off the table if a guy wins a championship.
Well, yeah,
right?
but there were people who resent that team doesn't get its respect, and there are factions within the MSU hockey community, and he talked about that, and I thought that was interesting how that the mid '80s guys, the Ron Mason guys, didn't necessarily respect what was done in 07 because some of their teams that didn't win it were better. He was pretty open about stuff, so that stuff all stood out to me.
Nick Palmer with this one. What is the best spot for Big Ten Media Days?
For basketball, it's without question, it's a hotel right next to Chicago O'Hare, because in football, it works really well in Indy on the turf bay at Lucas Oil Stadium or any place cool. People will go. It's in the middle of the summer. For basketball, it's like it shouldn't be 2 days. It should be easy out. Like you should be able to fly into O'Hare at 6 a.m. flight and fly out in the afternoon. It's the middle of football season. A lot of people are trying to cover multiple things. A lot of people's fan bases aren't yet turned to basketball. It should be.
Some are.
Some are.
Yeah.
But it varies. If you want to make it easy for 14 different schools, you put it in Chicago at a hotel right next to the airport.
Nick Palmer. Need a pick. Number 1, Ferris State, or number 2, Grand Valley in football?
I didn't even know they were playing this weekend, and I'm ashamed by that. And that's one of the reasons I hate. Like when I was growing up, I would have known that was happening. I feel like we're
Really?
Yeah, because we read newspapers back then, which had like everything going on. Like it wouldn't just be you have to
need
click
a
on this
TV
article.
guide too to tell you what's on Netflix.
I'm just
I mean,
saying we
geez.
had broader knowledge, is what I'm saying. I would sit in front of my parents' heating register with my brown sugared oatmeal. I've told you stories about this, and I would read the newspaper. I would know this
like a
game was
Rockwell
happening.
painting.
I have no idea.
Grand Valley. Tyler,
Give me
prediction for MSU Michigan line. I'm thinking Michigan minus 22 and a hook. Hard to like anyone covering a big spread in that series.
What do you think the line will be on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app?
Well, I know that we always say this, but I would like to see Michigan play Penn State. If they beat Penn State,
Yeah.
obviously it would be different. I think it would be somewhere in the, I would say 17 and a half, maybe.
Yeah, I do think this week will determine it a lot. And sometimes you can get. I haven't seen that line. Sometimes you get an advanced line on certain games on certain apps. I have not seen that anywhere yet. But because obviously, if Wisconsin runs over Michigan State and Michigan beats Penn State convincingly, all of a sudden it's like that line. Like the highest that line could get next week is like 25-26. We've seen it there against Michigan before.
Right. And
Those-
does Michigan State fight against Wisconsin as well? Are
Right.
they still fighting? Because that would definitely change things. If you see some players kind of give up, then I'm like, oh, shit. Then it could get to that 22 and a half.
I think the lowest the line is like 17 and a half. It's minimum next week.
Tyler next. College football locks of the week. Mine is a 3-team 7-point tease up. Tennessee, MSU, and Indiana all at home.
So that's taking MSU up to like 14 and a half, Tennessee up to 14 and a half, and Indiana up to 18 and a half. I actually kind of like that. I don't hate it. MSU would be the team that would scare me out of that group.
What does that pay?
It's got to be. I would guess it's better than even money for a 7-point tease. 3 teams, yeah, it's better than even money. That's not a bad tease. Good stuff, Tyler.
Curtis Kashale. I don't know how you say his name.
But you did. It was a nice effort with the accent.
Kashale.
Yeah, well done.
I'm all for giving Elijah Collins the RB1 status, but if you watch closely, his blocking isn't great. In fact, there was a really bad missed block against Ohio State that resulted in a sack. Isn't that the real reason he's not seeing the field more and not blind loyalty by Tucker to his transfer backs?
It's a fair question. I haven't noticed that by him. I do remember the block last week, and it was not a great moment for him. I don't know if that's an issue overall. It may have affected his status. It does affect guys from time to time. Sometimes you think, why aren't guys in there? And L.J. Scott is a freshman. The reason he was their closing back when they needed to salt away games or they had to run the football is because he was their best runner. But he was not their best pass protector. And so throughout the other quarters, they used a lot of the other guys too, and on non-running situations, they didn't have him in the game a lot. And so that's fair. I didn't, and I do know the specific play. It's not something I've asked about, though, with Collins.
Matt Venny next. What game would MSU have to win, or what final record would they need to have in order to build momentum into next season?
Well, I mean, they got to win this one.
Wisconsin, Michigan.
To me, 5-7.
You got to beat Michigan then.
Well, yeah, build momentum is a tough thing. There are a lot of different things. To build momentum versus avoid disaster, those are different things. 5-7.
Caution.
Going into Ohio, going 5-6, going into Penn State, you made it that far. Still a little on the radar, playing for something. It's not so bad. But to build momentum, yeah, you got to beat Michigan. You got to, things got to really turn somehow, and I don't see how that happens.
Steve next. In your opinion, does Izzo tend to change his coaching approach due to his team makeup, or does he tend to have the team adopt to his philosophy?
Well, his team usually embodies who he is. I mean, it's his best teams do, I should say. His best teams have sort of a fiery leader. They are teams that are defensive-minded, that run. And so, yes, his teams that work tend to embody him a little bit. He does change his approach, and I think he's done it this year. I think this year will be interesting to see how much he sticks to the idea of playing small. Like, he took 5 guys to Minneapolis for Big Ten Media Days, and I think right now, I know they're going to start Mady Sissoko and all that stuff, but like I think right now, if you're finishing a game, it's a smaller lineup with Hauser and Malik Hall, Jaden Akins, and Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard. And that's a pretty good lineup. Like, that's a pretty, offensively at least, that's potentially a really interesting lineup, and that's him adjusting to his team's makeup.
Jarrett next. Can you guys draft the 10 scholarship players on MSU and see which of your team does better this year off just points scored?
All right, we're going to do this real quick. So, you get the first pick on Michigan State's team. Just point score. This isn't rebounds or anything else. Who do you want?
Malik Hall.
Okay. So you go Malik Hall. Give me A.J. Hoggard.
Oh, shit. I got to find the men's basketball roster here. Pierre Brooks.
Wow. Okay. I like it. It's off. Yeah. Yeah, give me Jaden Akins.
Tyson Walker.
Okay. Tyson Walker. All right. Give me Joey Hauser.
You can have the rest. I'll take Steven Izzo.
You see where we're going with this. But yes,
Carson Cooper, I'll take him too.
My team will do better.
All right. South of Munn, I enjoyed the Rick Comley article and hope we get a few more hockey articles this season. Why would the mid-1980s players resent the 2007 championship team? Those guys would have been 20-plus years older than the guys on the 2007 team.
Yeah, it's weird. I just think it was an era post Ron Mason. It was a team that wasn't. I mean, the thing about college hockey that's tough, and it's the reason I stopped being a fan when I was a kid of college hockey, of Michigan State hockey. I remember watching Michigan State when I was like 15. I was like, they're in the NCAA tournament against somebody early on. They had a great year, and they lose a game, and that's it. It's like single elimination hockey, which should never happen. Should be no such thing as single elimination hockey. It's such bullshit. Like, you spend the whole year working out for single elimination? No. I could not bring myself as a player to work out, to prepare for the next season, to care one bit for single elimination postseason hockey. I don't like it. But what that creates is you get all these great teams that Ron Mason had that really didn't get it done in the postseason, and you get this team from Rick Comley that wasn't a great team but was terrific at the end and won a title, and I think that's where the resentment stems from.
Quite the stand from young Graham when you were like 15. So you're not going to take it anymore.
I always have a problem with, like, I enjoy the baseball playoffs, but it still drives me nuts that they played 160 games.
Yeah.
For this crapshoot that's totally, I mean, I don't know.
That's baseball, man.
Okay, well, it's shit, but it's baseball. I mean, it's fine. You know, like, I enjoy it. It's just two separate things. It's not, I do enjoy, you know, like, some people look at what's happening to the Mariners right now. They fall down 0-2. They've had this great season, good young team.
They blew game one, though.
They blew game one. And people will say, well, that's all right. They did win a series, a wild card series, and this is a young team that's figuring it out. No. In baseball, you got to win it when you have the opportunity, because every year's a crapshoot. Just get in. There's no, the best team in baseball loses a third of their games. This isn't the NBA where they had to go through it. This isn't the NFL where they had to lose that NFC Championship game. They had to lose to the Bulls in the second round of the playoffs and figure out how to win. In baseball, fuck it. If we put the Tigers in there, they might get to the ALCS. I mean, like, it's just eh. So it's not enough of a marathon in the postseason. I think they could do better, and that's my issue with it.
We're dropping MFers now?
South of Munn, who writes the headlines for columns and articles? Does anyone have to approve them before they are posted?
Depends on the organization And
I've never understood that. In
What do you
your
mean?
guys' world, like why you are not in charge of what goes.
I have quite a bit of influence on it.
Right, but I mean, it's not your final say or whatever. It's just kind of
It usually could be
you
mine.
write the column, yet someone else tag. I don't know.
It also gives us some sort of plausible deniability. Like when Izzo calls and he's like, I know your asshole editor wrote this headline, but I hate it. And you're like, yeah, my asshole editor. You're able to say it. Even if you had a lot to do with that headline.
Is that what Izzo says?
He hates the headlines, and he thinks our editors write them all, even when we write half of them. It's a beautiful thing. But boy, Izzo hates our editors. Hates the headlines.
Chris Eastlick next. Graham, great article on Rick Comley. Love the change up and hearing his perspective. It sounds like he's optimistic about Nightingale. My question related to that article is, do you think D'Antonio has similar feelings to Comley in that he might be a little sore when people say the cupboard was bare?
Yeah, I think D'Antonio is far more appreciated than Rick Comley was, and for good reason. He did what nobody'd ever done at MSU, and Rick Comley followed Ron Mason, right? And Rick Comley even said in the piece that Ron Mason was the greatest college hockey coach ever to live, and I don't know if that's true, but certainly that's Comley saying that about his predecessor. But I'm sure it does sting once in a while if you're D'Antonio and you're like, I gave you a couple good players that you ran out of the program, or this guy could have been good. But there also is the reality. That 2020 class wasn't really strong. And there were some guys that and he knows he ran out of steam. And I think, part of this whole thing is knowing when to get out, and it's hard not to run out of steam. Like at some point I'll talk with Kathy George, and I haven't spoken to her since Leah Johnson's intro presser is the new volleyball coach. And Leah Johnson, you want to talk about somebody I would think would be really good as Michigan State's president? Leah Johnson. She is. She will swear at you. She's intense. She's got a good personality. She'll bring people together. But she would tell the board of trustees if she needed to just.
Sounds like a political ad or something.
I'm just saying, I like Leah Johnson's temperament.
Leah Johnson will swear for you.
People swear at me. I like when people tell me.
I like when people talk like normal people.
Yes, yeah. But Kathy George, she just ran out of steam. She had a great run, and that's a hard. It's hard to get out at the right time sometimes, and I think D'Antonio went a little too long, and he probably realizes it.
Chris Eastlick, if Mel Tucker were a stock, and this season is a falling stock price where it bottoms out, are you buying tons of it cheap or selling what you have while you can? To me, I'm still buying, assuming adjustments are made, which I think will be at the appropriate time.
I would buy Mel Tucker stock right now because I think it would fall. It would be lower. It'd be
Why
good,
sell, though?
Be good value.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think last year would have been the time to sell, but it'd be hard to sell after last year. And I get that too. But now would be the time to buy. I still like. What made last year so amazing is just how much they maximized everything. And you started to think, wow, Michigan State really struck lightning here. And it doesn't look like that now. It looks like they might have found a good coach with a lot of good energy and somebody who's be a good recruiter, but he's going to have to build up through the realities that exist. I mean, he can't circumvent what he took over, and in some of his original ideas, some of his original recruits, some of his original transfers, things aren't going to work out all the time. And I guess Mel Tucker just seems a lot more human today than he did a year ago.
Ken Chu, should MSU break out the neons? The last time they won, they were in neon.
Fucking hate the neons. Don't bring out the neons.
Bust them out. Let's go. Matt Venny, are some of the transfer portal players on this MSU team maybe acting more like free agents, trying to build up their pro profile, and are hurting the team chemistry?
I don't know that to be true. I do think there is something. It's interesting when you talk to Jacoby Woodman or some of the transfers, and you just know that they don't really have a sense of what the team went through last year or the build with different guys, and just it's just different. I think having too many transfers on your team isn't ideal. I don't know what that number is because talent is talent, and you'd rather have that over not having a good player.
Mr. Benjen, are you tired of the MSU football season and the repetitive narratives yet? Well, no. We have Twitter questions and
Yeah.
hot takes that get repetitive, but hey, you know.
I'm not tired of it yet. I like the struggle. I think this week is interesting. The Michigan game will always be interesting.
You like the struggle.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Why?
I enjoy watching people have to achieve, like really strive to get something great and not have it come easily. That's all. Instead of boo, boo, caw. No?
All right. Benjen, why is MSU so susceptible to hunting season? The worst Michigan seasons didn't seem to have that as an issue.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've heard they have, but it just doesn't, not to the degree where it affects attendance. It's always been a case. Like if there's an argument to be said, like in Michigan, they should move hunting season, because if you're going to be serious about college football in your top couple schools, then you shouldn't have hunting season in the way. I don't know if that has to be the case, but I remember when I covered lived in Kalamazoo, covered Western Michigan.
You did.
And they played like Central Western basketball during spring break. And it was like, and so there's no students there, and it just killed the vibe of a big rivalry game. And it's like, if you want to be serious about this shit, get your academic calendar to work around the basketball schedule. That's all.
Mr. Benjen, over or under Pistons season win total?
So I've seen 28.5. I've seen 29.5. I'm kind of on the under.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have James on maybe next week before the season starts.
We're dropping MFers.
I think he's on
Under?
I think he's on the under. And this, there was a good piece by Hollinger about he called it the year before the year, and by Hollinger in The Athletic. And I think this is obviously not they're just still really young.
Sorry, what was the number again?
28.5, 29.5.
Damn, and you're going to go under. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go under. I think they're going to be in play for another high draft pick. I think they're going to be things I just don't think Jay Nivey yet is going to be somebody. He'll do things that are amazing athletically, but I don't know that he'll play winning NBA basketball yet. They've already got the injury to Marvin Bagley. They don't have a lot of, they're going to have to play Jalen Duren a little bit more there. I don't know. The thing is, Cade Cunningham at the end of last year was so good that if he takes a step and is just, sometimes these young teams, it just comes together. And so I'm not betting it either way, because I would never bet the under on the Pistons, because then it wouldn't be enjoyable to watch the year. It would ruin the season. I just don't like the over that much. I don't feel confident in it.
Jeff Peterson, I get that we need to cut Tucker a break in terms of the players he has, but what about the decisions with his own personnel he's made? He knew that defense was not good last year, yet he still went with it. And then the firing of Ron Burton has improved your pass rush this year.
That was with a question mark. Yeah, it has not. I liked Ron Burton. I don't. What's funny is I use that as an excuse that he's not sentimental. I also think it might have been a mistake. Like, I think Ron Burton's a pretty good coach. Now, if that was the only way to bring in Brandon Jordan, who I think will help recruiting and over time help the pass rush, then I understand why you did it. But I don't know that was the only way. I don't know. I don't know what all those conversations were at the end. Mel Tucker should absolutely be held accountable for, wins and losses to a degree, and decisions he's making, and on-field decisions, and how games go, and trying to get the most out of this year. You don't just get to get a complete pass because your recruits are is where everybody's measuring you. But the thing is, if you get to like 12 to 15 4-star recruits and they go 2-10, everybody's going to be okay with him on signing day. That's just the bottom line.
Jeff Peterson, when was the last time we had a game of this magnitude?
I think the Penn State game last year was really an important game. And there were games before that, but you're talking about the last game of this magnitude. I think the Penn State game, after they had lost to Purdue and struggled against Maryland, and they had sort of been they got blown out by Ohio State, and it was like this great start to the year. If you also lose at home to Penn State and you're not in a New Year's Six bowl, it loses steam. And the fact that they won that game, and the snow helped, and Kenneth Walker was himself again, but it got them into a New Year's Six bowl. It ended the year with everybody feeling good about things. That was an enormous. That was a program win in certain ways.
Jeff, with this one, what week was it that I predicted this team would be no better than 3-9 or 4-8 after week 2? I think. Just saying.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And there were quite a few people who thought they'd go under 7.5 wins, and there were a lot of people who saw this more than I did.
Mojo Jojo, would you buy an electric vehicle?
Yeah, if it was a good price and made sense for me, yeah, I would. Would you?
Teslas are expensive, but yeah, why not?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it, of course.
Mojo Jojo, is New Girl the most rewatchable show left on Netflix? All the other great sitcoms are on Hulu or Peacock.
It's one of the great sitcoms of all time, and it's very rewatchable. So it might be. I don't know what's what. I mean, I have Hulu and Peacock and Netflix. It is weird. Like you have to have every streaming service these days.
It's ass.
It's.
I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, cable's easier. It was easier when it was all.
We still have cable, but still with the apps.
Yeah, we have everything too. It's just ridiculous.
Forth.
Yeah.
Mojo. Have we reached punter stories as the only intriguing development left on the team? Bonus. Graham, check out Abbott Elementary.
I have. I like Abbott Elementary. My wife doesn't like it as much as I thought she would, so we haven't watched it a ton together. The punter for Michigan State though is a really compelling story. It is obviously they suck in every other area, so it's a good punter. But he's having, like right now, Bryce Behringer, if the season were to end today, it's the greatest season by a punter ever in college football. Like, that's pretty remarkable. Averaging 52 yards on 25. I mean, he's punting a lot, and he's averaging 52 yards a punt. Nobody's ever done that before. That's not I should say, in over 36 punts. There are guys in the history books who punted like 11 times in a season and punted, 60 yards or something like that. But nobody who's been a regular punter punting this often who's punted this well. It's pretty remarkable.
Yay. MSU stand.
Well, do you like? We all hate when the punter comes on the field for your team.
No,
but he's often like his punts are so good it softens the blow from that third down, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean it's just that he's the focal point, and people that's all they were talking about on last week's broadcast.
Yeah,
the punter. That's the more. It's nothing against Behringer. It's just like, okay, yeah, we know he's a great punter, but when it's like the only,
it's all they got.
Yeah, that's what blows about it. MSU Stan Graham. Last night I saw someone eating sushi while grocery shopping. That is absurd. What's the weirdest thing you've done in public?
So let's start with the grocery shopping and the sushi thing, because this was a thing I tweeted out yesterday, and I've talked about
a great point of we have to talk about how you eat it with your hand, the transfer from the cart to the sushi. Germs, kind of weird.
Yeah, so yesterday, and I've done this before, I've talked about, like, I think one of the great things to do when you're grocery shopping that helps you make smart decisions, not undershop like you do when you're full, or overshop when you're in like when you're hungry and make bad decisions, is eat while you shop. And I like these little trays of sushi. The one I grabbed yesterday for effect had what's the sauce it has on it? It was a little more gooey than the usual ones I usually do. And so to do that well, you have to have a little, like I had a little wipe that I could use. Like I wasn't just like getting my hands full of crap.
Gross.
Yeah. So
what an ordeal. You're just trying to grocery shop.
Yeah. I like eating sushi while I grocery shop. But yeah, so it's basically I use my hands. I eat the whole individual thing of sushi.
Do you catch people looking at you? Like people have to look at you, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Sure.
Wait a minute.
But most people don't. And most people are just, that guy's doing his thing. Whatever.
Like I'm with you on eating before you go. It's just the whole eating, like that kind of item. Like, why don't you ask to use their microwave in the break room and just fire up some fucking boneless wings or something?
I try to eat as much.
Why stop at sushi?
I eat as much sushi as I can, and then I touch every like tomato and apple and look at it. Do I want this one? Is it bruised? Get my hands all over it. No, I
arrest this man.
I wipe. Weird. I wipe a little bit, and then I have another piece. I wipe a little bit. I grab the can of soup. I add the split pea soup to the
Jesus
is what it is. So what was the actual question? Was the weirdest thing you've done in public? I mean, this seems to most people, I guess, is pretty weird. So this takes the cake. What's the weirdest thing you've done in public?
Like non-sexual.
Yeah. Let's go non-sexual.
Oh, I have nothing then.
Okay, sexual.
In a parking ramp, some stuff happened. That's all I can get into pretty much, the rest.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. A story worth
With
telling.
my wife, by the way. It wasn't anybody else.
Story worth telling, presented by Midtown
It
Brewing
wasn't
Company.
great. That's all I had.
Nah, it's still a story worth telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing.
Yeah, downtown is where it happened, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Crazy things happen at Midtown Brewing Company. But also, really good meals, really good beer. This time of year, the American Stout is just my absolute favorite, and I love it when it's getting cold out, fall, winter. Just a cozy, spacious environment with, I think, one of the best menus around. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check it out.
MSU Stand next. So, when is the next Couch in the Rube meetup, and why does it involve an all-expenses-paid trip to Las Vegas to gamble with Harry?
That would be tremendous. I don't know if we can put that all together. I'd love to do something at some point. We talked about a tailgate. Maybe we do another Christmas party or something like that at Front 43.
Holiday party, sir.
Yeah, holiday party.
Yeah.
Sorry. Holiday party.
How dare you? Carl Mylock. Why does Big Ten Network never broadcast hockey games? I would think the second and third best hockey conference would get more hockey views than soccer or volleyball.
Because it doesn't, and that's what they found. I mean, I do not think the Big Ten. I don't know that the Big Ten forms a hockey conference had they known how poorly it would rate on television.
Just put a GoPro on Mr. Neurotic Pants, fire that thing up, and have him walk around.
Honestly, volleyball draws a lot more eyeballs, so they put volleyball on Friday nights. The idea originally was, hey, this would be good Friday night programming for the network, and other nights as well. But it is not. It doesn't do as well as.
What's the remedy for it? Like, what do you do to college hockey to spice it up? I mean,
I think it's just too much of a niche sport in certain areas. People like the NHL. It's not. People who are really into it go to the games more.
It's such a great sport, though.
It is a great sport. It's a great sport. And hockey's doesn't translate to TV as well as like football. Football's almost made for TV, right? Hockey is in person is tremendous. But yeah, they just found wrestling draws better. Volleyball draws better. I don't know about soccer. That might just be a time of year thing in the fall. But I think volleyball and wrestling do better in the ratings than college hockey for the Big Ten, and that's become a problem.
Kevin from Rochester Hills. How many MSU players besides Jaden Reed have NFL talent?
I think Jacob Slade's a guy who will get a good look. There's some younger guys I'm intrigued to see what they develop into. So there might be 4 or 5 more who we'll see. And obviously Bryce Behringer, if he's punting like this, is going to get a good look.
Next one from Kevin. Who would wear a Dahmer costume for Halloween? What the fuck?
Wait, somebody wore a Jeffrey Dahmer costume for Halloween? Hold on. Give me some
kinda...
Let me Google this. Do you know what he's talking about?
No, I don't know anything.
Big black crow sitting on
Oh, you
a
can
tree.
buy it.
What are you squawking about? Won't you tell me? Every day it's the same old song. Are you hoping?
All right, I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway.
Who
It's
dresses
become a
like
thing.
that is a guy that doesn't want to get laid at a Halloween party, or a female that doesn't want to get bothered at a Halloween party. Just like Dahmer.
Right. There you go.
That stops guys.
What have you ever worn a costume to a Halloween party where you thought, I wish I was not wearing this here?
I was a mammogram machine.
That's right.
Yeah, I have a picture of it. And yeah.
Do you think that was going to work?
Well, you should have saw the people the ladies that were putting their bosoms into my mammogram machine.
So it did work.
No. Well, it wasn't what I was searching for at 23 years old, but I thought the costume was funny.
I like it. I like the attempt. I like the creativity. I think
I just was at the wrong party. So
that is definitely a story we're telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue here in downtown Lansing.
You didn't like the Caw song?
I loved it.
We'll scrap it.
Thought it was good. No,
Kevin
it was good.
from Rochester Hills. Anyway, to get Art Schleister on your show with Harry before Art goes back to jail?
I don't know what's going on here.
Schleister? Look it up. Hold on. Let's finish the song. See how bad it is.
Way up high in the old oak tree, your shiny black feathers are clear eager to see. You're bigger and louder than all the rest. You must think you're the very best. Big black crow, you're a noisy bird. You sing the loudest song that I've ever heard.
So he's out of prison less than a year, but he's charged with cocaine possession again. Yeah, they're not good.
Wait, in 2022?
This is
He's
just
still messing with coke?
this October 12th byline. Yeah.
Jesus. Come on, Schleister. What is he, 60 now? He's still messing with coke? Jesus.
Schleichter, right? Not Schleister, is it?
No, I thought it was Schleister.
Oh.
More like Schleister, am I right? Jay Riemenschneider. Why would a school schedule for homecoming a team that they have a 50-50 chance of losing to in any given year, i.e. MSU bringing in Wisconsin, and a 99 out of 100 chance losing every year, i.e. Indiana bringing in Michigan?
Well, you don't control that. It's the Big Ten schedule comes out, and you try to pick a game in October that you can be competitive in that works with the schedule. So Michigan State's choices for homecoming this year were Ohio State or Wisconsin. They looked at the schedule and said, yeah, we'll go with Wisconsin. I mean, can you imagine last week being the homecoming week? You don't want that. And sometimes you see it in September. It's a little early for homecoming. They could have, I guess, done the Minnesota game. But you don't get it's not like you can say, hey, throw Rutgers there for us. You just
do homecoming versus Akron. Let's all have fun then. Is it about fun? Does it matter? Does it really ruin people's homecoming?
It's a good question. I don't think, I didn't go to MSU, so Solari's always like, yeah, it's homecoming week. I'm like, who the fuck cares? It's a college football week. I don't homecoming week. I know people come back for it, but like,
is that how he says it?
Well,
yeah, homecoming week.
Well, he's all like, that's the storyline. Like, never put the word like beyond mentioning it's homecoming. It's never a story. It's not a story. It's homecoming. Who cares?
All right.
All right. Let's. By the way, if you're going to the homecoming game this week, make Groovy Donuts part of your tailgate. It improves any tailgate. And if you're just going to be at home watching the game, Groovy Donuts, go to groovydonuts.com or just and place your order, or just swing by Saturday morning, Groovy Donuts on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Pick up a half dozen for yourself. Watch the soccer. Watch the college football. You will not regret it. I never do. Let's take a really quick break. We'll be back with more of your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Firekeepers Casino.
Hopcat exists at the intersection of great beer and delicious food, complemented by music, art, community, and comfort. Home to a best-in-class beer experience served by craft beer experts. Guests can expect a casual, inviting local gathering place with some of the best damn burgers and fries you'll find in Michigan. Hopcat is proud to be an official sponsor of Peyton Thorne. Show your Spartan pride by ordering the iconic Peyton Thorne burger, created by the man himself. There is no better place to watch any Michigan State game other than the 50-yard line at Spartan Stadium. Stop by any of our locations: East Lansing, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Holland. To plan your next trip to Hopcat, visit hopcat.com. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Skymint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Skymint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Skymint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Skymint Cannabis. You'll love this place.
Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis, inspiring us to feel better, look better, smell better. Just turned another friend on to Skymint the other day. They're very happy, and we'll help them get through this weekend of football and other shenanigans going on in their life.
Charbonneau?
Yes. Well, I think Charbonneau has already discovered Skymint. I don't think that's new for Matty Ice. I'm sorry that I forget who calls him that. That's not his nickname to most people. I apologize. We'll fix that. And post
Ice.
Our Thursday show.
He's cool as ice.
Also brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Play the games we are betting, including Jason's can't miss parlay this weekend. Before we get back to your Groovy Donut Twitter questions, Michigan State hockey with a win tonight over number 16 UMass Lowell. Big win, and is pointed on Twitter. MSU hockey is both 1-0 after I write a feature about them, and 1-0 after I devour Meyer sushi while walking around the store. And somebody asked if it can continue for every MSU game from this point. I will see what I can do. Happy to make that.
Anybody
sacrifice.
have a birthday shout out? Someone wants to tweet at Couch real quick? Jesus. Jay Riemenschneider, did you go to Big Ten basketball media days, seeing as you actually cover sports for a basketball school?
Well played. I did not. And had I realized the football season was going to go like this weeks earlier, and there was going to be some good basketball stuff there, and they're going to take 5 guys, I might have considered it. But usually most years it is not worth it.
Next one from Jay. Can you name the schools in the Big Ten that do not have a live on-field or on-court mascot?
Like a live, like a pet or something that's like just a
peacock?
I don't know. I can't. I mean, doesn't everybody have something
Penn
out
State
there?
should wipe theirs off the map, though. That's an embarrassing.
What is Penn State?
Penn State is
the
like
line,
some terrible.
line.
Yeah, but it looks like your child toy from like 1970.
It's not the best. Yeah, no, it's not the best. I don't know. That's a good question, Jay.
John, next. Every week I go watch the same college football team play. Who am I? A parent of a player. B, a huge fan. Or C, someone named Gus or Joel.
All of the above. Well played, John.
Couch on fire. If the fan base isn't owed something, aren't at least the players, since most have a short shot at this thing called college football, to which they give so much?
Yeah, well, I mean, the players are owed being put in the best position to try to win, and I think the coaches are trying to do everything they can. I think the players are too. That nobody wants this over there. So yeah, they're owed their best from the coaches, and the best might not be good enough, and maybe there needs to make a change somewhere on the staff because of it. But I don't think anybody thinks right now that like Scotty Hazelton is not giving his best. He's not like, fuck it, let me get a bag of Doritos and sit in this lawn chair here and watch practice. That's not maybe Groovy Donuts, but not Doritos.
Couch on fire. Watch the 2012 MSU versus Whiskey game. Isn't it amazing the difference from today's defense?
Those are also awful offenses, that game. I remember that day. One of my least favorite days. I was coming down with a cold. The parking ramp was like a mile and a half away. I was wearing a sports coat that was too warm for the day, so I was sweating.
This guy
My
can't
nose
remember
is running.
Devontae Dobbs' name, but listen to all this, the detail.
Good God. A little bit of a hangover because that night before wound up at a strip club in Madison. With Ebling, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Ebling went to a strip club?
Everybody, the entire contingent was at this strip club. Yeah.
Did Ebling get a lap dance?
I don't know. About that. I wasn't like monitoring Jack Ebling.
How do you not? What are you talking about? What else were you doing? You watched Jack Ebling and see if you got a lap dance.
By the way,
what are you talking about?
This is before I started dating my wife.
Who gives a shit? What was Ebling doing? I don't care about what you were doing. Couch on Fire. Just talking to her about sports back in the booth. Oh, shit. Couch on Fire. You're the Tigers GM. What moves do you make, given at least some financial wherewithal?
Yeah, see, Correa's available if you want him again. Declare free agency or whatever. It's a good. What I think more than anything they need to find in this first year, and there are a number.
Who's the Pudge Rodriguez of this? Who's going to be that free agent signing?
Yeah,
the new guy brings in, right?
The guy that excites people and produces, because it's not like, and the other thing is they need a fear bat more than anything. They need that guy like Gary Sheffield in his prime, where it's like, holy shit, this guy, like somebody that, and I'm not saying getting an aging Gary Sheffield, although he was really good still when he first joined the Tigers, but they just need somebody that affects the rest of the lineup because you fear them hitting in the middle of it, right? That sort of person would be.
Abreu is going to be a free agent. I don't know, for the White Sox. I mean, but you don't want to overpay for these guys if you're considering this kind of a rebuild, right? Do you really want to reach it, guys?
Well,
I don't know.
And you also have to figure out what you need and where. You definitely need a outfielder still, but
Pitching.
You probably need to add one starter. I don't know. Half your starters are hurt still, but to me, the position is less important than getting a fear bat.
Ryan Schultz next. Graham, you always say that so far there is no evidence to say that Tucker is sentimental. Hashtag Ron Burton. But could we not argue that his handling of Eli Collins has been sentimental? Dude was an above-average Big Ten back as a freshman. Looks like he should absolutely be starting this year, and Tuck basically tried to run him out of the program. And don't say he didn't. We all know Eli staying, given the circumstances, is the exception, not the rule.
I would disagree here, based on what Elijah Collins said. I mean, he even said in the piece that Ryan Black wrote recently that he was nobody basically tried to run him. He's always felt like he had a shot, and that's one of the reasons he didn't go. He's always thought he was treated fairly. I mean, here's a guy who had dealt with injuries, dealt with COVID that lingered, and I think that affected him a lot. And I don't think anybody tried to run him out of the program. And they didn't make any promises. I'm surprised he stayed. But I don't. Now, if Elijah Collins doesn't run the ball 10 times this week, I'll have questions. And maybe the answer is simply, as a previous listener wrote in, that Elijah Collins isn't pass protecting or something like that. And maybe there is a simple answer, because Lord knows with that offensive line, if your running back can't also block, you got a real problem. So maybe there's a simple answer to why he's not the option more often. Based on what we've seen as a runner, though, he ought to be in the game.
Bo McJunkins, should we just make a blue and yellow chair for the Heisman ceremony? Blake Corum is this year's propped-up player.
He's really good, though. I mean, I know Michigan is famous for having the September Heisman and doing that every freaking year, and that's definitely a thing. But Blake Corum is an incredible running back. I mean, it's
and his numbers are inflated because of the first couple games, but so what, right?
Yeah, he's tremendous.
I mean, yeah. Bo McJunkins. Rob Parker is a comedian now? Is he just going to show clips of his sports career?
Yeah, he
what? Where?
I don't think. Is that just the column he wrote on Draymond Green? Or
No. I think he's really a comedian. He does stand up.
Well, maybe he's better at that than sports columns, because he sucks at sports columns.
Should Los open for him?
The Los and Parker show. Yeah.
Bo McJunkins. If Aiden Hutchinson didn't go to Michigan, would he have been the number 2 pick? Underwhelming. Don't say double teamed. It's the NFL. Be productive.
It's a fair question. If he's not the Michigan guy, if he played,
he was getting double teamed, against the Eagles, but
let's say he played at NC State. Is he the number 2 pick?
No. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
Mark Dink Todio. Do you recall an Izzo roster decision having much collective skepticism from the fan base, as his insistence on rolling with Sissoko at the 5 this year, and from Eastlick? Have seen some rumblings that Matty Sissoko has made some good progress this offseason. Graham, can you verify?
Yeah, I mean, I can verify that's what Izzo says. I can verify he looks more comfortable because he's getting more opportunity than than in years past, but I can't verify the level of progress yet. I really haven't been around enough to see it. We've had a couple open practices, and but I think he deserves a shot, and I don't think Izzo would. I don't think Izzo would Izzo understands the situation with Sissoko, that all eyes are going to be on him. I don't think he would try to create expectations for Mady Sissoko that were unrealistic, and so that may just speak to the other two guys and what's happened lately in practice. But he wants Sissoko to succeed. I think just in terms of a guy who probably understands what's ahead in the Big Ten and what's ahead in November. Like, you look at the centers they play, some of the best centers in the game in college basketball, they play right off the bat, and they're going to need Sissoko to be out there a fair bit and also not pick up 3 fouls in 2 minutes.
Next one from D'Antonio. In honor of that Fox talking head making a stink over an alleged $28 Taco Bell order, what's the most embarrassing fast food bill you've ever rang up for yourself? I recall some nasty ones that flirted with $20 from the 2-story Grand River McDonald's back in my MSU days.
It's the most embarrassing fast food bill you've ever done.
There's been Taco Bell bills, but but it's usually been like collectively where we get those big, like the not bucket, but the whole thing of tacos and burritos that we get to go. That's turned into like a $40 order. But
yeah.
Other than that, I would get the fish fillet back in my fat days after the bar. I'd stop by Mickey D's and get a fish fillet with another fish fillet on the side with a chocolate shake.
Yeah, I've had some IHOP experiences. I struggle with places.
But IHOP, does that count, though? Because you can ring up pretty quick on that with tip.
Yeah, but you're supposed to get one meal. And, like...
Is that the rule?
Well, usually people just get one entree. But, I've had a couple,
Are you expecting 3 other people, sir?
Well, no, I had a 3. So I struggle with places with pictures on the menu because I just want all of it. And I'll always order something that's a picture because it looks so damn good.
I like pictures.
And Applebee's and IHOP are owned by the same people, so there's similar menus. And those 2 places I struggle with in particular. And I ordered this one burger, and then there was this other burger that was actually fairly similar to the Peyton Thorne burger at Hopcat because it had the egg on it, right? And it looked really good. And so I said, I'll have this burger with a side of this one. And they said, it's not really a side. And I said, yes, I know. Just bring them both. And so
Can I take this menu?
I've had those experiences. Riding right up into my rectum, and it was painful.
Mark D'Antonio with this one. Really enjoyed your Rick Comley column, Graham. Had MSU not fired him, and he got the additional 7 to 10 years he thought he'd have, do you think the hockey program would have collapsed the way it did under Anastas and Cole?
I don't know that it ever would have. People said he stopped recruiting and he lost his steam, and so you never know when that's there. What's interesting is he said that now. He thought he had another 7 to 10 years because I know D'Antonio didn't feel that way. I know Kathy George didn't feel that way. So the fact that I'm curious if he felt that way then and just didn't like the way it ended, or if he really thought back then he had another 7 to 10 years. I don't think as a guy who's and the other thing is, with Ron Mason still around, even not as the AD, I don't think it would have fallen beyond a certain point. That would have been fascinating to see. I wasn't around back then. The Rick Comley era encompasses my largest swath of really not paying attention to MSU. So it's 2002 when I'm finishing college, going to Freeport, Illinois, through 2011, a year before I moved back to Lansing to start covering MSU. So that, I really didn't. I don't have a lot of knowledge of that other than what I've been told by a lot of different people, and so I don't know.
Free Ubers.
Tyrone Couch next. Was Kenneth Walker actually the worst thing to happen to Mel Tucker, as it skewed expectations? We would all handle this year better and be less angry if last year didn't happen.
Yeah, but I think there'd be more questions overall about Mel Tucker, right? So if last year, say last year there is no Kenneth Walker and they go 5-7. And then this year they're 2-4. Yeah, I think there's at least a sense that Tucker, there was that swagger. They did do something. I'm not saying it doesn't make this season worse, but I think it just shows you
how big of an impact Kenneth Walker had. That's the shocking part, right?
Yeah, and
you take that 11-win season all day long.
Because I think it helped recruiting momentum, and it helped all that swagger, so I think in the other trajectory of the program, I think even though this year is more painful, just the long-term thing, I think it's better.
Tyrone, with this one, is saying watch the tape, just Mel Tucker being calculated and not saying something out of anger. I'm Italian. I have zero filter. If pissed, I go for the kill shot. I accidentally told a lady, I'm not your husband. Yell at him. This was a week after he died. I need to be more like Tucker.
Yeah, not ideal. Look, I think Tucker he learned from Saban. You can see the Saban stuff come out, and he knows when to be measured. He knows when not to say too much. I don't know if he really is great at really being I don't know what the way to say this is, but like D'Antonio, when they were bad, at times was actually really effective as a speaker, and you felt empathy for him somehow because he was good at that. And Tucker is, I don't yet think, figured out how to explain this team tactfully but also truthfully, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he's lying up there, but what I mean is, like, there's a level of detail and there's a level of weighing to say it that would make people feel a little bit better about what's happening, and I don't think he's quite figured out how to convey that yet.
Tyrone Couch, American Pie time. If you had to choose a food to mate with, number 1, Groovy Donut. Glory hole joke here. That's what he says. 2, Jersey Giant steak and cheese. 3, warm pasteki. Pasteki? And 4, meat pie. What's warm? What's pasteki?
Let's look that up.
I'll give you some. Off.
Oh, it's a Polish meat pastry. It actually looks really, really good.
Well, that's not the question.
Right.
Want to stick your mule in it?
Focus crimp. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna waste a good Groovy Donut, so it's not gonna be that. So any of the others.
Really? I would do the Groovy Donut, not out of disrespect, just out of the fact I don't want to stick my dick in either, like anything warm or a Jersey Giant steak and cheese. It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right, but neither does wasting a Groovy Donut. So.
Who said you're going to waste it? You're still going to eat it, right?
Are you still going to eat the Groovy Donut? Are you going to have the?
It's my mule.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting one of those cereal donuts.
I mean,
good live read for the.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a live read for anything. Just sort of move on here.
It's getting late. Max Spade, Graham, you've said before there's great patience through 2024 or 25 on the part of decision makers at MSU, all of whom want to see Mel Tucker succeed. Is there an on-field product that would cause them to lose patience and put him on the hot seat this year or next?
No, well, a couple things. I mean, those decision makers to me are Alan Haller and the donor base, right? They are not Michigan State doesn't have a president. Nobody respects the Board of Trustees at this point, I don't think. I don't think the Board of Trustees could fire Mel Tucker if they wanted to. It's not their call like it is the president. And I think people would step in and run them off a cliff. But I don't think, first of all, so it's Alan Haller's hire. So he's tied to this, and he will tie himself to it. He's not running. He wouldn't run from that either. I think people want this battle. I don't think there's anything that happens on the field this year or next that puts Mel Tucker on the hot seat. Now, by 2024, there have to be a certain degree of, you have to start to see it turn. Like, and I'm not talking about just have a Kenneth Walker year. I'm talking about you have to see depth and talent throughout the program where you go, okay, this is starting to be something. In 2025, I think that's a really fair year to judge him at the highest level.
Max Spade next. Does Couch and the Rube have a business plan? Do you make more per hour on the show than a journalist, an Amazon worker, an ice cream scooper? Does the show at least pay for your gambling losses?
It does help with the gambling losses. It helps offset the gambling losses.
Sure does.
Yeah. No.
Does Couch and the Rube have a business plan?
I like it. We have a business plan. That's why we're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
it's
have,
taken us a while to get here, but hey.
And we have lots of sponsors that we very much appreciate. And yeah, we've tried to incorporate them as best we can into our show. And we appreciate you guys supporting them.
Darkman Tonio. Why keep saying awesome recruiting? Yes, it's better than D'Antonio, but it's not trending toward championship level. And this is class number 3, which is still in the mid-20s. They might beat Penn State and Michigan back and forth on the field, but their talent isn't trending to be as deep as them, let alone Ohio State.
So a couple things. It's not really class 3. It's class 2 because that first class was huge periods of dark recruiting dead period, and then it was done on Zoom. And so this is really class 2. But it's fair to question how high you can get it. I think it's got to happen over time. It's got to be a trajectory. I said going into this year, and I've been pretty frank on this, we said it, 7, 7.5, 4 stars, we said was the number. And they're still above that this year. So I think because they got so many so fast, there was, thought that they could be way, way above that. And they haven't had a lot of 3 stars or other. It'll be interesting to see how this class rounds out. But it's still a little bit of a crescendo. And yeah, there's a question whether they ever get to Ohio State, whether they're ever consistently Penn State or Michigan. But that's what Tucker's paid to do, and he's got to ultimately get there. And I don't think the class is as important in terms of the ranking as having a number of guys who you're really excited about and look like difference makers. Like, you can have a class that's ranked 20th, 25th, but if there are 4 or 5 guys that you go, wow, that guy, whoa, that guy, that was, and it feels like you're getting difference makers along with some depth, then I think you can be okay. But we'll see.
Next one from Dark. Don't you think you took heat for your 3 quick takes because you are the only one who always brings up MSU trying to be OSU, and the last 3 meetings have shown MSU is nowhere near close to them?
I don't think that's why I took heat for them, but if I'm the only one bringing it up, and that's the goal. That's what they're paying for.
Why did you take heat then?
I took heat because I didn't think it was the game to judge MSU. I didn't think they played as poorly as they did in some other games. I didn't think it was the game for the hot take on, oh my God, MSU sucks. That was Minnesota. And just because you just for the first time watched Michigan State, or it's a public beating and flogging against Ohio State, doesn't mean that's the time. That's the season is a dialogue. It's a conversation. It requires seeing all 12 games. And if you jump in and swoop in for one high-profile game that really isn't the story, then okay. But don't beat up on the guy who's telling you part of the story, who has the full picture.
Next one from Dark. Jason, aside from Harry, why don't you ask any questions to your guests? Is Graham just that domineering and controlling and tells you to keep your mouth shut? I wish he did. That would be great. No, it's just how we always decided to do it. I don't have any questions for the writers, and I thought it would be a time where people would like to hear Graham talk with another beat writer or a columnist or something about the game coming up. And when we talk to James, I'll have a question for him, but I just honestly, I let Graham handle it because he's the interviewer kind of type of guy, the host, and I just try to stay out of the way. I don't know.
Well, no, and I think 2 things. One with people you usually chime in. Obviously, with Harry, you're a big part of that.
Yeah, we're doing the games and all that stuff.
and with other people you're familiar with. But I think what changed too is because we used to do a lot more with. You had a question. It's in the studio. It's real easy, right? You just raise your hand. You got a question, and it's easy to do. During the pandemic, however, what we did find was when we were doing this remotely, interviews were very tricky to do with 2 people, with one person on the phone, because you're stepping on each other a little bit. And so we would text each other sometimes if there was a question. But I think we did get in a rhythm away from that a little bit during that time too.
Because if we have like a gambling guest other than Harry on, I might have a question or something like that. But yeah, Graham's cool we're cool with all that stuff. This is just how, honestly, the show you hear, it just happens this way. We don't really have many like outside meetings about stuff. So, Molon Lobby Spartan, how can Tucker fire Hazelton for this defense when he's coaching possibly the worst unit on the team at corner?
It's a fair point. He's the position coach at a place that's really struggled, and he does not get a lot of heat from that. But the other thing is Hazelton is the guy who is orchestrating the defense, which looks sometimes confused and has been a sieve and doesn't really have any answers overall. So
and that is your job, right?
Yeah, but
as the defensive coordinator.
But it is a fair criticism that they have not gotten better at corner, and that's Mel Tucker coaching that position group.
But he's the head coach, so he stays. Molon Lobby Spartan. Thorne gets a pass because he's banged up. Every good quarterback at MSU has worked through injury at some point. If Thorne is injured, why is Jay Johnson calling runs for him? And from JD. Does Thorne being hurt still playing say more about how the coaches feel about him or Kim? If Thorne's lack of mobility is affecting play calling, shouldn't they put Kim in?
Yeah, it was curious to see Thorne talk about this, and he was, I think, very quick to say, he's healthy enough to do everything he needs to do out there. So not that there's any excuses, but because part of what makes Thorne perhaps a good quarterback, and is his mobility. And the other problem is they need him to run because look at what's going on. I mean, they need everything they can get out of these whatever weapons they have. The idea that is to say more about how the coaches feel about him or Kim. The Noah Kim thing is interesting because he has been good late in games against second unit defenses, playing sort of a casual approach to things, and but he has not really faced anything near what Peyton Thorne has, and he struggled a little bit against Ohio State too. And I just have to think if Noah Kim was the better option, and everybody in practice knew that guy was probably the better option, that we'd see him on the field, and maybe we will sooner or later. I can't believe you just run out the guy that you don't think is the better quarterback.
JD with this one. Graham, if firing a coordinator midseason isn't worth it, then why are other programs doing it? And which defensive commit is looking at Hazleton and his shitty defense and saying, yeah, I'm decommitting if this dude's fired?
No, that's a fair point. I mean, I don't know. But, again, relationships are deeper than that. And so I don't know which. I think just looking like things were unstable. And I'm not saying you can't get away with that. I'm not saying you can't make a move. And you call the recruits and you say, yeah, we feel that it's we're going to do something else here. But the problem with that also is for recruits is it's not just you got rid of Hazleton. If you're a defensive player and you don't know who the coordinator you're going to be playing for with is, that can bring some instability too. You may not be like, I want to wait. Maybe I'll decommit. I want to wait and see who you hire before I decide whether I want to do this. So it's a little tricky.
Mark Snyder next. Did Ryan Black accept a lateral position in Kentucky? Is there anything the Lansing market can do to retain media members with talent?
Yeah, it depends what you want. I mean, what Ryan missed that he didn't realize he was going to miss is the travel. And, he'd be around those of us who are on the road all the time, and he just missed it. He did it all the time when he was covering Kansas State. And so in certain ways, the job here is a step up because it's a takeout position. It's features. It's tons of freedom. It's whatever you want to do. But it's not beat work. And there are times if you still miss that, if you still got sort of the itch for that, it can be something you miss. And certainly the Kentucky basketball beat in Louisville is a massive job too. So it's a very visible beat. And so it was not a lateral move in that sense. What can we do? We can maybe try to up the salary a little bit, get somebody who really wants to do this sort of work for a long time. Those are the things you can do.
Mark Snyder. Comley sure did seem bitter in your article. I also get the sense his players didn't like him very much.
Yeah, there was an earlier question about the thing you took away from that. It was really interesting, his lack of connection to his players. The fact that the only one he had contact with was Justin Applicator and a note. Like, can you imagine? Like, Izzo invites all of them back. He has them in his basement hanging out. They do a whole week together. He goes out and sees them on all sorts of NBA venues. They're like, it's a D'Antonio and his former players communicate all the time. Like, the idea that you only talked to one dude in 10 years who played for you at Michigan State, that is a little bizarre and speaks a little bit to him. That's
not good.
It's a little odd.
Mark Snyder with this one. Any idea of what Dane Fife's next college coaching move will be?
I'm curious to see it. If he jumps back as an assistant somewhere, he doesn't have to. Like, he can do a mid-major gig. Somebody will hire him to do a mid-major job, and the question is really the trek he wants to take. I think he went to Indiana because he wanted to be the next head coach there, and it didn't happen. And he wanted to be a big-time head coach, and he wasn't gonna get the MSU job. So I'll be curious to see the approach he takes and where he goes next.
Scott Scoot Trump didn't really get if Rick Comley's perception that 2007 hockey is disrespected was solely directed at 80s players, thinking that the team was less talented, or the fans also a natty is the ultimate goal. What's to disrespect from anyone?
Yeah, I think he thought it was more from the 07 players. I think, there's fans who have said to me, that winning that kept him around, and which
one former player in 10 years?
Isn't that amazing?
What?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I thought about actually getting into that more and being like, wait, what? But I guess
talk
I did
to
not.
some former players, man.
Yeah, no, and look, he's back Friday. I'm going to be there Friday night, and he's back Friday night talking with that team, and
man,
that is fascinating to me. But yeah, I don't. To answer the question, I don't know that if it was. I don't know why there's so much disrespect other than what we talked about earlier with the 80s group. Just, I don't want to say it's jealousy or whatever it is, but they didn't think that team was as good. And then there was some people who definitely thought Comley sticking around hurt but if they had made the right hire after him, they would have been fine. They hired the CCHA commissioner and it didn't work. So that's on Mark Hollis, who he also says in the article, I was not a big fan of Mark Hollis. And those two clearly did not get along.
Plus-size softball dad. If Hazelton makes a Narduzzi-like turnaround as defensive coordinator, will you invite him on the show so he can pull his mule out and shake it at everyone?
I don't know if we'll go that far, but we will.
It'd be a weird, awkward Facebook Live.
We'll have him on, and we'll give him a groovy donut.
Plus-size. Will the LSJ fill the storyteller position in time for the Coach Show softball story I've been waiting for?
I certainly hope so. That's not till the spring, so I would be very disappointed.
Let softball dad write it.
I think he wants
fired up.
We don't make him do work. He's a subscriber. That's not fair.
New business model. LSJ puts you to work. Plus size. You ready for another 300-yard, 5-touchdown game from Graham Mertz on Saturday?
Things will not go well on our Sunday hot takes if that happens.
Fuck, dude.
It'll be
Hazelton. Just pack your shit.
Especially
have
with
it ready.
The Lions bye. There's just no need to wait for anything.
Gideon, what's going on with MSU's pass protection? I'm watching Japanese college linemen who are like 5'4", 180 pounds, and I bet they could get 3 sacks on Peyton Thorne.
It's not good, and it's weird because it's. I mean, I knew there was a chance they'd take a little step back last year because they had some guys that were pretty good players. It turned out, but. It's been I talked about that 2017 group that could protect Brian Lewerke, and they didn't do much else really well, but that was enough to give that season a chance. And if they could protect, they've got enough playmakers. I think that it's just not good. It's not good at all.
Gideon with this one. Can we come up with a new sound to specifically boo refs like the ones on Monday night? How about hoot hoot?
So the problem with hoot is it's just sort of like Lou Whitaker and Lou or whatever. Hoot still sounds like booing. You need caw. You need a different sound. So you got your vowels A, E, I, O, U, E for the refs maybe E. I don't know.
I just want to give it enough time so I can cut that up. Only Cass Lors. That's what it says. Next.
Oh, it should be only caw Lors. I mistyped it. My bad.
Okay. What is the apprehension with giving Elijah Collins the bulk of the carries? He's had a hard go of it and is finally healthy and looks like the best running back on the team right now.
It's a good question. And I don't want to judge last week too harshly because nobody ran the ball and they were behind and they were throwing it and it was, it's Ohio State. So let's see what happens in this game. If he runs less than 10 times, I think that's too bad.
Paul E. Show. Regardless of what happens with the transfer portal, will there be more or less talent on next year's team? And if you think more talent, will those players be ready to contribute?
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be less talent. You'd like to think the guys would be, this class that's true freshmen right now will be redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and there'll be another true freshman class that both should be classes that are pretty decent. And so you'd say more overall talent, but not seasoned talent. So I don't know if the season looks better, but there should be next year more young players that you're at least intrigued by. And that maybe makes next season more palatable, even if they're not a whole lot better. If you're seeing receivers or defensive backs, you go, oh, that kid looks like he could be something. That can help you get through a season. There's just not a lot of that right now, and I think that's part of the frustration.
Paul E. Show, for both of you and Jay Slice, what's the weirdest place you took a dump on purpose or accident? Who's Jay Slice?
That's you.
That's me, for both of you and Jay Slice. All right.
Oh, yeah, that does make sense. I don't know who Jay Slice is.
We went rustic camping.
No, for both you. Talking to me. Both you and Jay Slice. So, yeah, that must be me. And Jay
we
Slice.
went rustic camping, which is complete ass, but we were in our 20s. They had an outhouse, and you had to wait till you had to go. Like you waited because it was so god awful and disgusting. But they had 2 seats, like in the shed, and it was just like, so wait, do you like tag team? Like go at the same time? Anyway, so you had to wait till the very end. It was just rustic camping is ass. I will never do it again. But that was probably my weirdest. I was like, why do you guys have like toilets side by side? You hold hands like Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, I've gone into women's bathrooms because they were cleaner. But
I've done that when I've knocked on the door at a men's door and like it's locked, and I'm going like, well, I just
yeah.
What's the big deal? It's a toilet.
I'll tell you though. Actually, I'll give you one. This summer in England, we were actually in Torquay. We're at this like a beachside restaurant that's part out on a patio or part out on a deck, part indoors, and there's one bathroom. It's shared, men and women, which is awkward. Like, you use the bathroom, you come out, you're washing your hands next to a woman. It's just unnatural. It doesn't feel right. But certainly
after you just dropped a heater, you go, hey, how's it going?
Right, and I
see
had
that Bears game.
I had to go, and as much as I'm trying not to, I'm trying to not do that in front of women. The person I really care about is not farting in front of my wife. So I did what I had to do, and I didn't like it.
What?
I just took a shit.
So you can't fart in front of your wife?
I don't do that.
Really?
I do, but I try not to get her to notice.
How is that possible?
I'm very careful.
SPDs, and then you blame it on someone?
I make a lot of noise instead, caw, caw. What just happened?
Fart soup. Is it true Graham told Ryan Black he had to leave Lansing because nobody could understand his accent? Shame.
What sucks for us is that because of his accent, or partly because of his accent, he's got a very friendly demeanor. Mel Tucker and Tom Izzo both really took to him. And, you talk about trying to get people to interview you and be at ease when you're talking to them. Even in the most tense moments, Mel Tucker enjoyed Ryan's questions, and so did Izzo, and it was that accent. And it's also that he put you at ease. It's not like a standoffish style question. Like, there are certain reporters who are very, why is this happening, Mel? Or that's not.
Tell us what you were thinking when that ball went to the right field and you saw it drop on the field. What was going through your mind?
And Ryan would just
take us through that.
Ryan would just be like, Mel, I don't know.
What? Who is that?
Is that Ryan Black? I don't know.
Like Terry Bradshaw? What the fuck?
By the way, we'll have Ryan Black on before Michigan State plays Kentucky in basketball in the Champions Classic because he will be covering Kentucky in that game. So we'll get a sense of, and you'll get to hear the accent live.
Fart soup. Can you please include a groovy donut when you ship my cost shirts?
I don't know if it would hold up all that well, but
throw it in there.
Yeah. Make it
happen. Be in a bag though, so it might get smushed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Does the shirt get stained with?
No, you put it in a Ziploc, man.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Savages. Fart soup. Speaking of, will I actually be sent a shirt, or is this going to end up like your football prizes?
No, the shirt's on its way because
the shirts are just arrived today. They will be made, hopefully shipped out by next Monday or Tuesday, and this will be different because I'm running this and Graham runs the other things, and actually I have Treese covering my back, so it's going to get done properly. I'm just saying.
Next, please.
They're neurotic pants. What's a non-traitorous way to adopt a second favorite NCAA team? And are the WKU Hilltoppers a good choice?
Well, they were when they had Billy Zappi.
Bailey
Zappi. Fuck.
This guy can remember from 1987. Like what cologne he was wearing or some shit.
Oh man, you remember the cologne you used to wear in high school?
Oh God,
it was brutal.
Cool Water, and then
Man,
Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah, what did I have? What was that one sport? It was something sport. I don't remember. Yeah, I had Cool Water at one point.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just the whiff of you walking down the hallway,
Dude, just drowning in it.
Yeah,
like you didn't know what you were doing, especially the ones like. What was like the polo cologne where you had to put your finger on? I was like, what the hell?
It was Polo Sport. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
So I was like, what the hell do you do? And then, of course, it just goes all over you.
And somehow I thought my ugly, oily ass was going to be attractive to women by sticking like a gallon of that on my neck. I don't know what I was.
Just drown them out.
I do not know what I was thinking. What was the actual question?
No, I don't know.
Second. Yeah, no. Western Kentucky. Good choice.
Yeah. Neurotic Pants. Jason. I live next to a Division III school with a good football program, and they play Saturday at 4 o'clock. I don't care about that team, but I'm not sure I want to watch MSU get humped or thumped again. What would Jason do? Well, you can kill two birds with one stone and go to the state game and watch a Division III team play.
Well, no, if they play at 4, both teams play at 4.
I don't care. I'm just saying you can kill two birds with one stone. That was just a goof on state. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going to break it down.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Just moving on.
I got you. Sorry.
Michigan State would play like a Division III.
Yeah. Oh, man, did I miss that. Yeah. We'll fix that, both. Let's redo that whole question, and we'll cut that again. Oh, boy, did I fuck that.
Neurotic Pants. If Scotty Hazelton asks you if Sky Mint sold anything a little stronger, what would you say? Sorry, Scotty. No heroin here.
Nothing like your defensive line.
Yeah. Got dabs. This place is clean, Scotty. You want to do some dabs in the back room? Cucker Tarleson. How many axes does the MSU football program own? Over, under 10?
Give me under 10.
Keep chopping. Cucker Tarleson. How many? Oh, wait. Not only can one not drink at the World Cup in Qatar, apparently, you have to be a married man with your wife as well. No single men. Definitely no single women. So which one of you want my ticket?
Is that so? I can't believe that's so. No, I mean,
I believe it.
What a disaster this whole thing being there.
What kind of rules? Like who's the board of directors on these on the Qatar rules here?
By the way, if you want to host the World Cup, your culture is out the window. You don't get to choose the culture if you're going to be fucking backwards, back-ass 2,000 years ago shit.
Just Graham arrives in the tarmac. All right, your whole thing's over while we're here. Hans Jurgen. During the Ohio State-Michigan State broadcast, Chris Fowler said the Spartans couldn't stop a Buckeye drive if it started from Kalamazoo. He's right. Do the coaches and players realize how bad they have become? The drop-off is bad, right?
Well, they couldn't stop a drive that started in Kalamazoo last year against Ohio State. So, I mean, I don't know if it's worse than a year ago. I don't think it is. That was brutal, and you knew it right away. This game was actually much more competitive early. I remember that game last year, like within 2 seconds, it was like, boy, I think I can get back to East Lansing in time for the Eastern Michigan State basketball game at 5. I mean, it was so. But I mean, they know things aren't good. These guys 100% know it.
Hans Jurgen. I think our run defense really sucks too, but offenses choose to attack us through the air because it's quicker. Boy, I'm a barrel of joy. Do you think any player reads a critical tweet and then runs to the gym or film room?
Yeah, I think Twitter does not. What Peyton Thorne say about Twitter this week? He said, well, you delete it, and then sometimes you reinstall it, and then you're like, fuck it, and you delete it again. Like, because it just doesn't do you any good.
But do you think it motivates guys, though? I mean, not saying one tweet in particular, but maybe a narrative on there could get a player kind of pissed. I don't know.
Yeah, I think different guys react to things differently. Some will be.
I just don't know how you'd go on the app though if you're a player.
You got to stay off it.
Especially during the season. I'm off. There's no way.
And you just don't need it. You're a college football player on a college campus. You don't need validation from Twitter or anything else. There's not enough time for Twitter. Like you have things to do.
Like what?
Keep moving.
What are you implying?
Nothing.
Oh, Hans Jurgens, how do you think Chris Creighton would do at MSU? Could he keep Ohio State from curb stomping us every year?
Chris Creighton, I think, belongs at Kansas or a place like that. But I'm impressed with him. He's done at Eastern what, I never thought could be done. And
win a game.
Yeah, and have winning seasons every year. Yeah, no, it's impressive as hell. He should get a chance at a bigger place. I don't know if what he does there works, at Michigan State, and if he could take him to the next level. I don't know. I'm still stunned. He must be like the worst interviewer in the world, or he's very happy there, because I'm stunned he's still there.
Next one from Hans. Any chance everyone is healthy for the Michigan game and we pull off an upset that will go down in Spartan lore?
It would go down in Spartan lore just because how bad the season's been. Obviously if you get back Jacob Slade, if you get back Xavier Henderson, if your Jaden Reed's 100%, if the problem is, and while that helps, there's no question, you want that because again you're trying to at least keep things respectable. I think we'll learn a little bit more about Michigan this week because we did see them against Maryland. They were better than Maryland, and we've seen Michigan State against Maryland, so we have a little bit of the transitive property stuff. But I don't think Michigan's wideouts are so dynamic that they're going to run away from you. I just don't know if Michigan, like Minnesota, doesn't have dynamic wideouts. I don't think there's much of a chance. But I picked Michigan State, or I picked Michigan to beat Michigan State 7 straight times. And Michigan State's won 4 of those 7. So I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about.
Hans Jurgen, when your lover sleeps over for the first time, do you have an obligation to walk them to their car in the morning? What if you live in a nice neighborhood? How about after the 5th time, 10th, 100th? What if it's cold? Should you just always pick them up to avoid this conundrum? Well, if it's a one-night stand, you always walk the young lady back to her car or something like that, right? I mean, you always, because I understand, even if, there's something that was kind of crazy with it, you always want to walk the young lady to her car in case something happens, and also for your reputation.
Yes.
Because if word gets out like, oh, you didn't walk me to my car.
And you just feel better about yourself knowing that you've at least well,
you're feeling good already, and then you walk to the car. It's just kind of
you feel like a gentleman. Yeah,
I know that you lose all.
But if it's somebody that you're actually dating,
oh no, let them go.
No,
they can walk by themselves. After the 5th time, like, Jesus, all right, we're in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, 5th time's not that many times.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Jake Hawkins next. With Clay Weldon decommitting earlier this week and all the issues with the offensive line this season, how much pressure do you think the O-line coach, Chris Kapilovic, is feeling now to recruit, build, and coach a solid offensive line at Michigan State?
Well, I think there should be, anytime. I mean, he's making $1 million, and there ought to be pressure felt. I think of the coaches Mel Tucker believes in, I think Kapilovic is up there. Like they fought to keep him from USC, and you have to believe that there's I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he doesn't have the guys now. He's got to get these young guys developed, and I think this next wave of linemen will be really the telling thing with him. He did a nice job last year. It hasn't worked this year, but these young guys who are in the program and the guys they're recruiting now, making sure that line is better than anything Michigan State's seen since at least 2015 and rises to that level that they can really compete, that's on him. And I think Tucker thinks he's got the right guy for it. That is not a position I would overreact in terms of, getting rid of coaches or anything like that.
Next one from the Hawk. Great interview with the Wisconsin Badgers beat writer about what eventually led to the Paul Chryst getting fired. But I heard another factor that led to that was Mel Tucker snatching Saeed Khalif from Wisconsin as director of football recruiting. Thoughts?
It certainly sounds like Chryst did not replace Khalif right away and did not his organization was a little bit discombobulated, or at least didn't have all the holes filled. And and that sounds like something that was not addressed right away.
Next one from Jake. Are Big Ten media basketball days held in different cities? Has Detroit ever hosted them, or will they? Thoughts on the Big Ten basketball tournament possibly being held in Los Angeles when USC and UCLA join the conference?
It might happen once because it was in New York. It's something that I think they decided they didn't love in New York, and for a couple of reasons. I don't know. I could see it happening once, and there are a lot of alums out there, but everybody else is traveling. And the problem with these conference basketball tournaments is, the reason you want them drivable is when your team loses, you want to be able to go home, or you want to be able to sell them to fans coming in late. Like, one of the cool things about a conference tournament is you can be sitting home on the couch, and your team that you didn't think was that good all of a sudden starts to make a run, and you're like, screw it, let's get in the car and let's go see them. And another team's fans have no need for that ticket anymore because it's an easy sale. It's an easy transaction. It's a great It's a fun early March thing to do, and when you play them in a place where everybody's got to fly, you take a little bit of that out, and you usually wind up with more of an empty arena for certain games.
Jake, with this one.
And to the question, Detroit has not. Detroit at some point might. They've wanted to. To me, Chicago and Indy just make so much sense for the Big Ten.
I love when you go on, and then I start to go to the next one, and you go, wait, actually, let me answer that. I was like, Jesus, really? You haven't answered yet? The Hawk, despite the offensive line struggles and a 4-game losing streak, how motivated do you think Jalen Berger is going to be Saturday to go up against his former team?
Yeah, I mean, quite a bit, I would imagine. And sometimes we see that really pay off for guys. Sometimes we see them, overdo it and screw it up. But that I would lean towards it helping, and he will for sure be. And I think it will be important for him. We talk a lot about Elijah Collins, and I think Elijah Collins should see a lot of carries in that game. But this would not be the game that I would not start Jalen Berger if he's healthy and good to go, because I think that could hurt his ego. He wanted to be a starting running back. He left Wisconsin to do that. He's going to be up against his former team. I think that's probably important to him, and you want to do that.
Jake, have you ever been to the Fox Theater in Detroit for a show? I went there last Saturday night to see Bill Maher live.
I've never been to. I mean, I've been outside. I've never actually been to an event there. Have you?
Yep. Charlie Sheen. I think we saw Van Halen there, or
Nice.
Sammy Hagar.
Nice.
Do you like Bill Maher?
I have mixed feelings.
Oh.
I have liked him at times.
I think I'd go see that show.
I enjoy him.
Yeah.
But I don't always like some. Yeah.
But you're supposed to, right? Enjoy someone and to be able to disagree. I just
Totally.
I like the way he's on both sides.
No, I do. There are times.
Calls it. And
Yep. And he's unafraid of things, and he has lots of interesting people on. I've enjoyed his show many a time.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy, over/under on announced attendance on Saturday.
Well, I think
Give me a number. Over/under.
Well, it's a sellout, so they'll announce a different crowd than what it is. So let me say they'll announce 73,025.
Under.
Well, in terms of people there, I mean, but we won't know that. I would
you'll
say
know by looking at it.
You'll know looking, right? You just won't be the one they announce.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy, what recruiting class ranking does Tucker need to keep Spartan fans from jumping off the ledge?
I mentioned this earlier that I don't think it's as much the overall. The ranking has to be at a certain point, like top 25. I think would do that. But I also think it's probably more important that there are 4 or 5 guys within that class that people are really excited about, that you feel like, boy, that's a guy they just got. And so if it winds up 25th, but you see that within the program, within it, then I think things will be okay. But I think around 25th.
Next from the Jerk Guy, does Izzo know something about Matty Sissoko that we don't? Yes. Or he's praying.
Well, yeah. I mean, he sees Matty Sissoko all the time, so he certainly does to some degree.
Don't coach my team.
But I think we've also seen quite a bit of Matty Sissoko, so I don't want to say like we're ignorant to who Matty Sissoko is. We'll see. I am look. I like Matty Sissoko. I hope this works out.
He's a good guy. Upper Deck Jerk Guy, is Quetzalcoatl the best Aztec deity?
It's a feathered serpent. Yes is the only answer.
What does a serpent sound like?
It's not like Yoda. Yeah. Yeah. Serpent. It is.
What?
I don't know. Shit.
Let's get out of here. Jerk Guy with the last one. You ready for winter?
Yes, I am. I love January. I love the routine of January. I love everything about winter.
Why was it Yoda doing a serpent
I
voice?
don't know. It was bad.
That's good. I like that.
It was bad. We appreciate all of you and your Twitter questions. You guys make the show, and fantastic stuff as always. We appreciate Groovy Donuts and their support. Go to groovydonuts.com. Make Groovy Donuts part of your tailgate or home or football weekend. Go to 2 locations, one on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Thanks to Firekeepers Casino. Download the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Play the games we're playing right now. We appreciate Hopcat as well. And your hot takes, we'll get the hot take, Hopcat hot take of the day on Sunday. And, of course, Skyman. Go to Skyman.com. If you're still listening to the show, you know Skyman. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.